The inheritance check sat on my kitchen counter, mocking me with its emptiness. $300,000. Gone. Not stolen by a stranger or lost to some elaborate scam, but swindled away by my own sister. I'm Emily, and until yesterday, I thought I knew what family meant. You can't just take what was meant for me. My voice cracked as I confronted Ainsley in our childhood home's living room. She sat there, perfectly composed in her designer outfit, probably bought with my money. The will didn't specify you, she said coolly, examining her manicured nails. Aunt Caroline left it to her beloved niece. I'm her niece, too. You know she meant me. I was the one who visited her every weekend. I was the one who helped with her medical appointments. I was the perfect niece? Ainsley's eyes flashed. Some of us had to work, Emily. We can't all spend our time playing favorite with rich relatives. The irony of her words hit like a slap. I'd been working 2 jobs while finishing my architecture degree, while Ainsley hopped between marketing positions, living off our parents' generosity. Working? I laughed bitterly. Is that what you call maxing out mom and dad's credit cards? The front door opened, and Cynthia, my mentor from the architecture firm, stepped in. I'd called her in desperation, needing someone who understood contract law. Emily? She looked between us, her experienced eyes taking in the scene. I came as soon as I could. Ainsley straightened. This is a family matter. Family? I grabbed the empty inheritance check. You forged my signature, Ainsley. You convinced the executor you were me. Cynthia's sharp intake of breath cut through the tension. That's a serious accusation. It's also unprovable. Ainsley stood, smoothing her skirt. The money's been transferred. It's done. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, Ainsley challenged. Drag our family through a scandal. Make Mom cry more than she already has. Besides, she smiled sweetly, I've already spent most of it. Cynthia placed a steady hand on my arm. Emily, wait. Let's think this through. But I was already dialing. Ainsley's face paled slightly, but she maintained her composure. Mom and Dad will never forgive you. I paused, finger hovering over the call button. She was right. Our parents would be devastated. They'd already lost so much trying to keep our family afloat. You're really going to stand there and blackmail me with our parents' happiness? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I'm being practical. Something you never learned. Ainsley grabbed her purse. Face it, Emily. You're too soft for the real world. That money would have been wasted on your little dream projects. Cynthia stepped forward. Dreams like the sustainable housing initiative she's been developing, the one that could revolutionize affordable housing in this city? Ainsley faltered for a moment, but quickly recovered. Whatever. What's done is done. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it, barely registering the words through my anger. Get out, I said quietly. This is my house too. Get out, I screamed, my voice raw with emotion. You're not my sister anymore. You're just a thief in designer clothes. Ainsley's mask cracked slightly. For a moment, I saw something. Regret? Fear? But then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. She walked to the door, pausing only briefly. You'll thank me someday, when you learn how the world really works. After she left, Cynthia read the text over my shoulder. Emily, this could change everything. I nodded numbly, reading it again. Isaiah Murphy, head of Murphy & Associates, wanted to meet about leading their new cityscape project, the biggest architectural opportunity in the city's history. The universe has interesting timing, Cynthia said softly. Maybe this is your real inheritance. I wiped my eyes, straightening my shoulders. Maybe it is. I looked around the living room at the family photos mocking me from the walls. I need to pack. You're moving out? I can't stay here. Not with her. I met Cynthia's concerned gaze. I thought I knew my sister, but the Ainsley I grew up with, she died today, along with every happy memory I had of us. Cynthia helped me pack that night. As we loaded the last box into my car, my phone buzzed again. Isaiah wanted to meet tomorrow morning. You know what they say, Cynthia smiled, hugging me goodbye. Success is the best revenge. I watched our childhood home fade in my rearview mirror, each mile putting distance between me and the betrayal. Aunt Caroline had always said everything happens for a reason. Maybe she was right. Maybe losing my inheritance would lead me to something better, something Ainsley couldn't steal. But first, I had a meeting to prepare for. The Whitfield Tower will redefine our city's skyline. Isaiah gestured at the blueprints spread across the conference room table. And I want you to lead it, Emily. I tried to keep my hands from shaking as I traced the preliminary sketches. This wasn't just a building, it was a 40-story statement of innovation and sustainability, the kind of project architects dream about. Why me? I asked. There must be dozens of more experienced. I've seen your work, Isaiah interrupted. That sustainable housing concept Cynthia showed me, that's exactly the fresh perspective we need. He leaned forward. This is a chance to make history, Emily. Are you in? Absolutely. The word came out before I could overthink it. Perfect. Isaiah stood, straightening his tie. Team meeting in 10 minutes. Time to meet your crew. I followed him down the sleek hallway, my heels clicking against marble floors. After a sleepless night in my new apartment, this felt surreal. Yesterday, I'd lost everything. Today, I was about to lead the biggest project of my career. Isaiah pushed open the glass doors to the main conference room. Everyone, meet your new project lead. The words died in my throat. There, sitting among the faces turning to greet me, was Ainsley. Our eyes met. Her perfect composure slipped for just a second, showing the same shock I felt. Then her mask was back, professional smile firmly in place. Emily, she said smoothly. What a surprise. Isaiah looked between us. You two know each other? We've worked together before, I said before Ainsley could speak. Two could play at this game. The next hour was torture. I introduced myself, outlined my vision for the project, and assigned initial tasks, all while pretending my sister wasn't sitting there, wearing another expensive outfit bought with my stolen money. After the meeting, Cynthia pulled me into her office. You didn't tell me Ainsley worked here. I didn't know. I collapsed into a chair. She must have started recently. God, Cynthia, what am I going to do? Your job, she said firmly. You earned this position. Don't let her take this from you, too. A knock at the door made us both jump. It was Kinley Whitfield, our client, elegant in a power suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Emily, she smiled warmly, Isaiah speaks highly of you. Do you have a moment? I followed her to her temporary office, trying to look more confident than I felt. She settled behind her desk, studying me. I'll be direct, she said. This project means everything to my company. I need to know you can handle it. I can, I said firmly. My team? About your team, she interrupted. That young woman, Ainsley, she's been pushing some interesting ideas, very ambitious. My stomach churned. Of course, Ainsley had already started networking with the client. I'm familiar with her work, I said carefully. Good. Kinley smiled. Because she'll be your primary liaison with my office. I think you two will work well together. I managed to maintain my professional smile until I reached the bathroom. Then I gripped the sink, fighting back tears of frustration. The door swung open. Ainsley walked in, checking her lipstick in the mirror. Congratulations on the promotion, she said casually. Though I have to wonder how you managed it without Aunt Caroline's money. Unlike you, I earn things honestly. She turned to face me. You know, I was surprised to see you here. I thought you'd be too busy filing police reports. Don't worry, I straightened, meeting her gaze. I found a better way to handle things. Oh? Her eyebrow arched. And what's that? You'll see. I moved toward the door, then paused. By the way, Ainsley, I noticed some errors in your preliminary reports. Fix them before tomorrow's review. Her face flushed. You can't. I'm your supervisor now, I cut her off. I can and I will. Welcome to the real world, sis. I left her standing there, satisfaction warming my chest. Back at my new desk, I found a message from Trey, Ainsley's friend from the marketing department. Heard about the family reunion, he wrote. Need a drink after work? God, yes, I replied. My computer pinged with another message, this time from Isaiah. He wanted the first design presentation by Friday. 3 days to prove I deserved this position. I opened my design software, pushing thoughts of Ainsley aside. She'd stolen my inheritance, but she couldn't steal my talent or my determination. Emily, Cynthia appeared at my door. Kinley wants to discuss the environmental impact reports. I grabbed my tablet, squaring my shoulders. Let's go. As I walked past Ainsley's desk, I saw her struggling with the corrections I'd requested. For the first time since the inheritance theft, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe karma was real after all. "You're pushing her too hard," Cynthia warned, sliding a coffee across my desk. "The sustainability analysis you assigned Ainsley, that's senior architect level work." "She wanted to play in the big leagues," I replied, reviewing Ainsley's latest report. Red marks covered nearly every page. Now she gets to prove herself. "This isn't about proving anything, it's about revenge." Before I could respond, Trey appeared in my doorway, his usually cheerful face serious. "Emily, we need to talk about Ainsley's workload. Not you too." I rubbed my temples. "She has the same assignments as everyone else." "Really?" He dropped a stack of papers on my desk. "Because I've seen everyone's task lists. You're giving her the most complex calculations, the tightest deadlines. If she can't handle it, she shouldn't be on this project. She's been here until midnight every night this week." "That's not my problem." But even as I said it, something twisted in my gut. The dark circles under Ainsley's eyes hadn't escaped my notice. Trey leaned forward. "Look, I get it. She hurt you. But this isn't you, Emily." "You don't know me," I snapped. "I know you used to help her with her math homework. I know you stayed up all night when she had the flu senior year. I know. That was before she stole my future." The office went quiet. I'd spoken louder than intended, and through the glass walls I could see several heads turn our way, including Ainsley's. Cynthia closed my office door. "Emily, listen to yourself. You're letting this consume you." "Meeting in 5 minutes." Isaiah's voice carried through the office. "Bring the updated designs." I gathered my materials, avoiding both Cynthia and Trey's concerned looks. In the conference room, Ainsley sat as far from me as possible, her hands shaking slightly as she arranged her papers. "All right, team," Isaiah began. "Kinley's arriving in 20 minutes. Where are we with the environmental impact studies?" All eyes turned to Ainsley. She stood fumbling with her presentation. "The calculations show, the sustainability metrics indicate." She trailed off, staring at her numbers. "Is there a problem?" Isaiah asked. Ainsley's voice cracked. "I need more time to verify the data." "More time?" Kinley's voice cut through the room. None of us had heard her enter. "I thought these reports were ready." Ainsley's face went pale. "They will be. I just need to double-check." "Ms. Whitfield," I interrupted, standing. "I can explain the current findings." For the next 15 minutes, I walked through the environmental impact analysis, covering for Ainsley's incomplete work. I knew these calculations inside out. I'd done similar ones for my sustainable housing project. After the meeting, Kinley pulled me aside. "Impressive save, though I'm concerned about your team's preparation." "It won't happen again," I assured her. "See that it doesn't. This project can't afford mistakes." I found Ainsley in the break room, hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee. For a moment, I saw the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. "You're lucky I could cover for you," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Lucky?" She looked up, eyes red-rimmed. "You set me up to fail. I gave you work you claimed you could handle." "Because you knew I couldn't." She stood abruptly, coffee sloshing over the rim. "You're trying to humiliate me, to prove a point. The only point here is that actions have consequences." "Like you're so perfect?" Her voice rose. "You think I don't know about the calls from debt collectors, the maxed-out credit cards? At least I'm doing something with the money." "By sabotaging my career?" "By investing in my future, something you never had the guts to do." We were attracting attention again. Through the glass, I could see Cynthia watching with concern. "Fix those calculations," I said quietly, "or I'll have to report your performance to Isaiah." "You wouldn't. Try me." I turned to leave, but her next words stopped me cold. "Aunt Caroline would be ashamed of you right now." The rage that filled me was instant and overwhelming. I spun around, ready to unleash years of pent-up resentment, but Cynthia appeared between us. "Emily, Kinley needs you. Now." I let her lead me away, my hands shaking with suppressed emotion. "This has to stop," Cynthia said once we were alone. "You're both going to destroy yourselves, and this project. She started this. And you're finishing it?" Cynthia shook her head. "The Emily I know builds things. She doesn't tear them down." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A message from Isaiah. Progress review tomorrow. All team members, no exceptions. I looked through the glass at Ainsley, now bent over her desk, frantically working on those calculations. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel was replaced by something else, something that felt uncomfortably like guilt. Maybe Cynthia was right. Maybe we were both losing ourselves in this war. But I was too far in to stop now, wasn't I? The progress review was a disaster. Ainsley's hands trembled as she presented her revised calculations, dark circles prominent under her eyes. She'd clearly been up all night, but it wasn't enough. These numbers still don't add up, Isaiah said, frowning at the screen. The energy efficiency ratings are inconsistent with the building's design parameters. I can explain, Ainsley started, but her voice cracked. She reached for her water bottle, knocking it over instead. Water spilled across her papers, bleeding the ink into unreadable smudges. The room fell silent. I watched her trying to salvage the wet documents, and suddenly I was 12 again, watching 9-year-old Ainsley cry over spilled paint on her art project. I'd helped her recreate it that night, staying up until dawn to finish. Perhaps, Kinley said, breaking the silence, we should take a brief recess. As everyone filed out, Ainsley remained frozen, staring at the ruined papers. Without thinking, I stayed behind. Here, I handed her some tissues. Start with the edges first. She looked up, surprise replacing the panic in her eyes. Why are you helping me? I'm not, I stopped, noticing something in her calculations. Wait, you're using the wrong formula here. The sustainability matrix needs to account for solar gain. What? I pulled up a chair, pointing to the numbers. Look, you're calculating total energy output, but you need to factor in the seasonal variations, like when we used to track the sunlight for Mom's garden, remember? A ghost of a smile crossed her face. You made me graph everything. I hated it. You still got the best tomatoes in the neighborhood. For a moment, we were just sisters again, sharing a memory. Then reality crashed back as Isaiah returned. Everything all right in here? Ainsley straightened, professional mask back in place. Yes, sir. Emily was just clarifying some calculations. Good, because we need these numbers finalized by tomorrow. The board presentation... Board presentation? I interrupted. I thought that was next week. They moved it up, and they're considering internal promotions based on this project's success. He gave us both a meaningful look before leaving. Ainsley's expression changed. A promotion? Don't even think about it, I warned, standing up. You can barely handle your current responsibilities. I can handle anything you throw at me, she shot back, but her voice wavered. I gathered my things, pausing at the door. Prove it. Redo those calculations. Correctly this time. Back at my desk, I found an old photo had fallen from my planner. Ainsley and me at her college graduation, both smiling, her arms thrown around my neck. I'd paid for her cap and gown with my overtime money. You're still wearing it, Cynthia said, making me jump. She pointed to my wrist, where Ainsley's graduation gift, a simple silver bracelet, more still rested. I forgot to take it off, I muttered, but we both knew it was a lie. The board's looking for someone to head their new sustainability division, she said casually. Triple the salary, corner office. Why are you telling me this? Because I saw you in there, helping her. The real you slipped out for a minute. My phone buzzed. A text from Trey. Ainsley's crying in the bathroom again. This has to stop. I'm not the bad guy here, I said, but the words felt hollow. No? Cynthia picked up the graduation photo. Then why does it feel like you're both losing? Before I could respond, Kinley appeared. Emily, a word? In her office, she got straight to the point. I'm concerned about the team dynamics. Everything's fine. Don't insult my intelligence. She leaned forward. I've built my career reading people. You and Ainsley? There's history there. Bad history. I stayed silent. Here's the thing, Emily. You're brilliant. Your designs are revolutionary. But if personal drama compromises this project... She left the threat unspoken. Walking back to my office, I passed Ainsley's desk. She was on the phone, voice tight with stress. Please, just another week. No, I understand the payment terms, but yes, I know how much I owe. I stopped, recognizing the tone of someone drowning in debt. The same tone I'd used countless times before Aunt Caroline's inheritance was supposed to save me. Back at my desk, I pulled up Ainsley's latest design contributions. Behind the errors and rushed work, I saw flashes of genuine talent, ideas that could work with the right guidance. My computer pinged, an email about the board presentation. The promotion would change everything, a way out of my own financial mess, a chance to prove myself. But as I looked at the graduation photo, another memory surfaced. Ainsley at 6, holding my hand on her first day of school. "Don't let go, Emmy," she'd begged. "I'm scared." "I won't," I'd promised. Big sisters don't let go. Except I had. We both had. My phone buzzed again, Isaiah requesting the final presentation materials. I looked through the glass at Ainsley, still on the phone, shoulders slumped in defeat. The promotion could be my revenge, my justice, or it could be something else entirely. I just had to decide which sister I wanted to be. "You need to see this," Trey said, dropping a stack of papers on my desk after hours. The office was empty except for us and the cleaning crew. "I'm busy with the board presentation. These are Ainsley's bank statements." I pushed them away. "I don't want to see—" "Look at them, Emily, please." Reluctantly, I glanced at the top page. Multiple overdraft fees, loan payments, credit card bills with astronomical interest rates. "She's drowning," Trey said quietly. "The inheritance money? Most of it went to pay off your parents' mortgage. They were about to lose the house." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "Your dad's business was failing. They'd refinanced 3 times. Ainsley found out when she overheard them talking about bankruptcy." I remembered Dad's mysterious business trips last year, Mom's forced cheerfulness, the way they'd stopped hosting family dinners. Why didn't they tell me? The same reason you never told them about your student loan struggles. Trey sat down. Pride, protection, pick one. But why didn't Ainsley just tell me the truth? Would you have agreed to give up your dream project money to save their house? I wanted to say yes, but we both knew the truth. That sustainable housing initiative had been everything to me. "She's not sleeping," Trey continued, barely eating. "Between the project workload and the guilt." "Guilt?" I laughed bitterly. "She doesn't feel guilty." "Really?" He pulled out his phone, showing me a text conversation. Ainsley's messages were time-stamped 3 a.m., filled with self-loathing and regret. "I destroyed my relationship with Emily forever," one read, "but I couldn't let Mom and Dad lose everything." My throat tightened. She still had no right. A crash from the hallway interrupted us. We rushed out to find Ainsley on the floor, surrounded by scattered papers and her broken laptop. "I'm fine," she said quickly, trying to stand, but she swayed, grabbing the wall for support. "When's the last time you ate?" Trey demanded. "I had coffee." "Coffee isn't food, Ains. I have to finish these revisions," she mumbled. "The board presentation is in 2 days," I found myself saying, "and you're no good to anyone if you collapse." They both looked at me in surprise. "Come on," I sighed. "There's a diner around the corner. We'll get food and then—" I hesitated. "Then we need to talk." 20 minutes later, we sat in a worn booth, Ainsley picking at a grilled cheese sandwich while I stirred my coffee. "Why didn't you tell me about Mom and Dad?" I finally asked. She stared at her plate. "You were so excited about your project. Every time you talked about it, your whole face lit up. I couldn't—" "So you decided stealing was better?" "I decided saving our parents from homelessness was better." She pushed her plate away. "You don't know what it was like finding Dad crying in his office, watching Mom try to sell her jewelry. I had to do something. We could have figured it out together. Like you figured out your student loans, your credit card debt?" She met my eyes. "I saw the bills, Emily. You were drowning, too." I fell silent, remembering those desperate years of juggling payments, eating ramen, working multiple jobs. "I know what I did was wrong," Ainsley whispered. "I hate myself for it every day. But I'd do it again to keep our family from falling apart. And now you're falling apart instead." She wiped her eyes. "I'm fine." "No, you're not, and neither am I." I pulled out my phone, showing her the promotion email. "The board's looking for someone to head their sustainability division." "You deserve it," she said quietly. "You're brilliant, Emily. Always have been." "So are you." I surprised myself by meaning it. When you're not trying to prove something, your designs are innovative, different. She laughed weakly. "Is this where you tell me you're firing me?" "No." I took a deep breath. This is where I tell you I'm going to help you fix those calculations. Properly this time. Her fork clattered to the table. What? The promotion isn't worth destroying what's left of us, and maybe… I twisted the silver bracelet on my wrist. Maybe it's time we both stopped drowning. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, Emmy, for everything. I know. I reached across the table, squeezing her hand. We've got a lot to work through, but right now you need to eat that sandwich. We have a presentation to save. Trey, who'd been quietly watching, smiled. Does this mean no more midnight crying sessions? Shut up. Ainsley threw a napkin at him, laughing through her tears. As we left the diner, my phone buzzed. A text from Cynthia. Sometimes the biggest victories aren't the ones we plan for. Looking at Ainsley, exhausted but finally eating, I thought about Aunt Caroline, about family, about forgiveness. Maybe the real inheritance wasn't the money at all. Maybe it was the chance to rebuild what we'd broken. No, absolutely not. Kinley slammed her hand on the conference table. We are not redesigning the entire west facade 12 hours before the board presentation. I shared a worried glance with Ainsley. We'd been working through the night, our temporary truce tested by endless coffee and mounting pressure. Now, at 7 a.m., our client was threatening to derail everything. The current design doesn't maximize natural light, Kinley continued pacing. The board won't approve it. But changing it now would compromise the structural integrity, I argued. Then fix it, Kinley snapped. That's what I'm paying you for. After she stormed out, Ainsley slumped in her chair. We're screwed. No, I pulled up our design software. We're not. Remember that solution you proposed last week? The one with the stepped windows? Her eyes widened. You said it was too risky. It was, but right now, risky might be our only option. For the next hour, we reworked the design, our old rhythm returning surprisingly easily. Ainsley's creative approach balanced my technical precision, just like when we used to build elaborate blanket forts as kids. There, Ainsley pointed at the screen. If we angle the panels like this, we can increase light penetration without compromising support, I finished. It could work. Could? Isaiah appeared behind us, making us both jump. We need better than could for the board. It will work, I said firmly, but we need the whole team. Isaiah studied us for a moment, then nodded. You have 4 hours. The office transformed into organized chaos. Trey coordinated with contractors, running cost analyses. Cynthia helped us refine the technical specifications. Even the cleaning staff pitched in, keeping us supplied with coffee and snacks. Your calculations were right, I told Ainsley as we fine-tuned the design. About the solar gain, I just didn't want to admit it. She looked up, surprised. Really? Really? You see things differently than I do. Maybe that's not bad? A small smile crossed her face. Remember when I redesigned your treehouse blueprints? You added a secret trap door, I laughed. Dad nearly had a heart attack. But it worked. Yeah, I said softly. It did. The moment was interrupted by Kinley's return. She studied our new design in silence, her expression unreadable. Well, I asked finally. It's unexpected. She turned to face us. Bold, innovative, possibly brilliant or completely insane. Sometimes those are the same thing, Ainsley said. Kinley's lips twitched. You sound like my daughter. She straightened her jacket. Make it work. The board meets it too. As she left, Isaiah called everyone together. 4 teams, 2 hours. Emily, Ainsley, you're presenting. Both of us? Ainsley asked. Problem with that? We looked at each other. No, I said. No problem. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of last-minute adjustments and presentation prep. At one point, I found Ainsley in the break room, practicing her part. You're rushing the sustainability metrics, I said. I know, what if I mess up again? You won't. I handed her a granola bar. But eat something first. You're still too pale. She took it, hesitating. Emily, if this works, about the promotion, let's just get through today. The boardroom was intimidating, all dark wood and stern faces. As we set up our presentation, I noticed Ainsley's hands shaking slightly. Under the table, I reached over and squeezed her hand once, like I used to do before her school plays. She squeezed back. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, we'd like to present a revolutionary approach to the Whitfield Tower design. For the next 30 minutes, we tag-teamed the presentation. Ainsley handled the creative vision while I covered the technical details. When questions came, we fielded them together, our different perspectives creating a more complete picture. "This is unusual," one board member said finally, "but impressive, very impressive." Kinley was beaming. Isaiah looked proud. Even Cynthia, watching from the back, was wiping her eyes. As we packed up, Ainsley turned to me. "That felt right," I suggested. "Yeah." She fiddled with her presentation notes. "Listen, about the promotion." "Mrs. Stanley?" A board member approached. "Both of you, we'd like to discuss something." We followed him to a smaller conference room where several board members waited. "We've been considering the new sustainability division," he began, "and after today's presentation, we'd like to propose something different." I held my breath. "We'd like to offer you both positions. Co-directors, your different approaches, working together, could be exactly what this company needs." Ainsley and I stared at each other, months of anger and hurt colliding with decades of sisterhood. "Well," he asked, "what do you say?" The answer, I realized, would change everything, again. But this time, we'd face it together. "Co-directors?" I paced Cynthia's office after the meeting. "It's insane. We can barely work together on one project." "You did today," she pointed out. "That was different. We were desperate." "Were you?" She raised an eyebrow. "Or did you finally stop fighting each other and start fighting for something?" Before I could respond, Ainsley burst in. "We need to talk." "I'll give you two some privacy," Cynthia said, heading for the door. "No, stay," Ainsley said. "Please, we might need a witness." I crossed my arms. "A witness for what?" Ainsley pulled an envelope from her bag. "This is a cashier's check for the inheritance money." My heart stopped. "What?" "I've been working with a financial advisor. Sold my car, my designer clothes, took out a loan." She held out the envelope. "It's not all of it yet, but it's a start." My hands shook as I took it. "Why now?" "Because I can't start something new while carrying old guilt." She met my eyes. "I was wrong, Emily. So wrong. And I'm not asking for forgiveness, but I am asking for a chance to make it right. By throwing money at it? No." She took a deep breath. "By being honest about everything." For the next hour, she laid it all out. The desperate phone call from Mom about the house, Dad's failing business, the mounting debts, her own struggles with feeling second best. "I convinced myself I was doing the right thing," she said, wiping tears. "That saving the house was worth losing my sister. But it wasn't. Nothing was worth that." "Why didn't you just talk to me?" "Because you always fix everything." She stood, frustrated. "You're the responsible one, the successful one. I wanted to be the hero for once, to prove I could solve problems too. By creating bigger ones? I know I screwed up everything, and now they're offering us this amazing opportunity and I don't deserve it and—" "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop." The office fell silent. Through the glass walls, I could see our colleagues trying not to stare. "You're right," I said finally. "You screwed up. Massively, but, but maybe I did too. With the revenge, the impossible assignments. I became someone I didn't like very much." Cynthia cleared her throat. "If I may, I've watched you both these past weeks. The anger, the competition, but also the potential. Today proved what you can accomplish together." "It was one presentation," I argued. "It was more than that," Ainsley said quietly. "It was us, the real us, before money and jealousy and stupid pride got in the way." My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. "Heard about your promotion opportunity, both of you, so proud." "They know," Ainsley said, seeing my expression. "I told them everything last night, about the inheritance, the house, all of it." "How did they take it?" "Dad cried, Mom yelled. Then they both hugged me and said they'd rather lose the house than see their daughters destroy each other." Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "They're selling the house anyway, moving to something smaller. They want us to focus on healing, not debt." I looked at the check in my hands, at my sister's tear-stained face, at the photo of us still sitting on my desk. "The board wants an answer by tomorrow," I said. "I know." She straightened. "And whatever you decide, I'll respect it. If you want the position alone, it's yours. I can find another job. That's not. I stopped, frustrated. This isn't about the job anymore, is it? No, she whispered. It's not. Cynthia stood. I'm going to get coffee, lots of coffee. You two, figure this out. After she left, Ainsley and I stared at each other across the office. Years of love and hurt and competition hung between us. Remember when we were kids, I said slowly, and we'd build those crazy Lego cities? You always did the structure, I did the decorations. And they always worked better together than apart. She caught her breath. Emily, I'm still angry, I said firmly. This isn't a magical fix. We have a lot to work through. I know. And if we do this, there have to be rules, boundaries, complete honesty. Hope flickered in her eyes. Does that mean? It means I'm willing to try. For the project. For us. She started to smile, then stopped herself. What about the inheritance money? I looked at the check again. Keep it. Use it to pay back your loans. Consider it an investment in our future. Our future? Yeah. I managed a small smile. After all, co-directors should start with a clean slate. She launched herself at me, hugging me fiercely. For a moment, I stiffened. Then slowly, I hugged her back. Outside the office, I saw Cynthia watching, coffee forgotten in her hands. She gave me a proud nod. Maybe we were crazy. Maybe this would all fall apart. But maybe, just maybe, we could build something stronger than before. Together. It's perfect, Kinley breathed, staring up at the nearly completed Whitfield Tower. Absolutely perfect. The morning sun caught the stepped windows of the west facade, sending ribbons of light dancing across the plaza. Around us, construction crews were putting the finishing touches on the sustainability features Ainsley and I had designed together. Not quite perfect, I said, checking my tablet. The solar panels on the south side still need adjusting. Always the perfectionist, Ainsley teased, joining us. The energy efficiency ratings are already exceeding projections. Speaking of projections, Kinley turned to face us. The board is very interested in expanding this design concept to other cities. My heart skipped. Other cities? They're calling it the future of sustainable architecture. Your future, specifically. She smiled. Assuming you're both interested? Ainsley and I exchanged glances. 6 months of working together as co-directors had taught us to read each other's expressions. We'll need to discuss it, I said carefully. Of course. Kinley checked her watch. The ribbon-cutting ceremony is in 2 hours. Try to decide before then? After she left, Ainsley and I walked the plaza, our heels clicking on the recycled glass pavement we'd insisted on using. Remember when we first saw this site? Ainsley asked. It was just an empty lot. Now it's going to change how cities think about sustainable development. I touched one of the living wall panels. All because you insisted on integrating vertical gardens, and because you figured out how to make them work structurally. She paused. We make a good team, don't we? When we're not trying to destroy each other, yeah, we do. A construction worker called us over to check some final details. As we worked, I noticed Ainsley kept checking her phone. Everything okay? Mom and Dad are on their way, she bit her lip. With some news about the house? My stomach tightened. Despite their plans to downsize, our parents had struggled to sell the family home. Good news or bad news? They wouldn't say, but she showed me her phone. Trey's been helping them with the listings. I smiled. Trey had become a regular at our weekly family dinners, his easy humor helping bridge the awkward moments as we rebuilt our relationships. Ms. Emily, a worker called down from above. We found something in the time capsule wall. During construction, we'd created a space for the community to leave messages for future generations. But this was different, an envelope with my name on it. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Aunt Caroline. How? I looked at Ainsley, who suddenly seemed very interested in her shoes. I found it in her things, she admitted. After everything. I asked Cynthia to help me hide it here, for today. With trembling fingers, I opened the letter. My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, you've completed your first major project. I always knew you would. Your talent isn't just in designing buildings, it's in building connections. Between spaces, between ideas, and most importantly, between people. Money can start dreams, but it can't sustain them. That takes something stronger. something I see every time you help your sister with her homework, or when she makes you laugh after a hard day. Take care of each other. Build something wonderful together. All my love, Aunt Caroline. I wiped my eyes, smudging my mascara. You didn't read it? Ainsley shook her head. It wasn't mine to read. Before I could respond, our parents arrived. Mom was practically bouncing with excitement. We sold the house, she announced, to a lovely young family, and, she glanced at Dad. We found something perfect for us, a fixer-upper. A what? Ainsley and I said simultaneously. Dad grinned. We thought maybe our architect daughters could help us design some renovations, together. I looked at Ainsley, seeing my own smile reflected back. I think we can handle that. Speaking of handling things, Cynthia appeared, looking elegant despite the construction dust. The press is arriving for the ceremony. As we headed inside to prepare, Ainsley grabbed my arm. About Kinley's offer? The multi-city expansion? Are we ready for that? To take our partnership bigger? I thought about Aunt Caroline's letter, about connections and buildings and sisters who could be both rivals and allies. I think, I said slowly, that we're ready for anything, as long as we do it together. She hugged me quickly. I love you, Emmy. Love you too, brat. I pulled back. Now come on, we have a building to launch. The ceremony was a blur of speeches and photographs, but one moment stood crystal clear. Ainsley and I cutting the ribbon together, our free hands clasped between us. Above us, the tower we designed caught the light, sending it dancing across the city. Not just a building, but a bridge, between past and future, between sustainability and innovation, between two sisters who'd found their way back to each other. And as cameras flashed and applause thundered, I felt Aunt Caroline's presence, smiling down on the something wonderful we'd built together. Not just a tower reaching for the sky, but a foundation strong enough to support whatever came next.
Olivia Watson gazed at the night view visible from the large office window as she finished her final proofreading. Good, I'll make tomorrow's deadline, she whispered to herself, stretching. She had established a firm position in the industry as a talented editor for the major fashion magazine, Mode Elegance. Her colleagues had long gone home, and she was the only one left on the floor. Checking her smartphone, she found several messages from her sister Ashley. Sis, you're coming to my engagement party tomorrow, right? You haven't replied. Olivia sighed slightly. Ashley's engagement party. She hadn't completely forgotten, but could she really make time for such an event the day before the magazine's release? However, skipping a family event wasn't an option. She knew all too well how much her mother Martha valued family gatherings. Of course I'll be there. It starts at 7, right? Olivia replied. Ashley's response came immediately. Thank you. James's parents will be there too, so dress appropriately. I know, Olivia replied with a wry smile. Ashley had made a habit of giving her such reminders, as if Olivia lacked social etiquette. Olivia grabbed her bag and left the office. As she climbed into a taxi, she began preparing herself mentally for tomorrow's family gathering. Conversations with her mother, in particular, were always tense. Olivia, are you still single? At your age and not married? What are you thinking? These phrases echoed in her mind. The next day, Olivia attended Ashley's engagement party wearing a carefully chosen navy blue dress. The venue was an upscale restaurant in Manhattan, with beautiful views of Central Park at night from the windows. As she entered the room, her mother Martha immediately noticed her. Olivia, you finally made it. Ashley was worried, Martha said, looking her up and down. Couldn't you have done something more with your hair? Good evening, Mother, Olivia replied coolly. I've been busy with the magazine release tomorrow. Work, always that excuse, Martha clicked her tongue softly. Look at Ashley. She manages to balance her work and personal life properly. Indeed, Ashley was radiant in the center of the room. Next to her stood a tall, handsome man, presumably James Foster. Ashley was wrapped in an elegant champagne gold dress, with perfect hair and makeup, looking like a model straight from a magazine cover. When Ashley noticed Olivia, she approached with a brilliant smile. "You came. James, this is my sister Olivia." James smiled politely. "Finally we meet. I've heard a lot about you from Ashley." "Welcome to the family," Olivia said, shaking his hand. "Congratulations, Ashley. You look truly happy." "Thank you," Ashley replied, but her eyes were already searching for the next arriving guest. "Oh, James's parents have arrived. Excuse me, I need to go greet them." With that, Ashley left with James in tow. Olivia remained alone and picked up a glass of wine. "Olivia," a gentle voice called. Turning around, she saw her father Harold smiling at her. "Dad," Olivia gave him a slightly tense smile. "How's the magazine work going?" Harold placed his hand gently on his daughter's shoulder. "Good, busy but rewarding." "I'm glad," Harold said, though his eyes showed a hint of concern. "But your mother worries about you. About you being alone all this time." Olivia sighed softly. "Dad, I'm happy on my own. My work is fulfilling, and I have friends." "I understand, but..." Harold paused slightly as if searching for words. "For your mother, who values traditional family structures, some things are difficult." The conversation ended there. Across the room, Ashley was chatting happily with James's parents. Martha had joined their circle and was proudly holding Ashley's hand. Throughout the party that night, Olivia noticed Ashley's cold attitude several times. When introducing her, her sister simply said, "My sister Olivia," without mentioning her work or successes. In fact, she occasionally referred to her as, "My sister is a workaholic," as if it were a flaw. As the party drew to a close, Olivia decided to leave early. Before leaving, she approached Ashley. "It was a lovely party, Ashley. James seems like a nice man." "Thank you," Ashley replied, though her eyes suggested she was thinking about something else. "You know, I'll be sending out wedding invitations next week." But. Never mind," Ashley suddenly changed the subject. "I'll be in touch." Olivia was a bit puzzled but didn't pursue it further. As she climbed into a taxi, she contemplated the complexity of family relationships. No matter how hard she tried, she always felt like an outsider. Especially in her mother Martha's eyes, her being unmarried would always overshadow her success and be seen as a failure. A few days later, Olivia noticed that Ashley's wedding invitation still hadn't arrived. That next week, her sister mentioned had long passed. Feeling a bit anxious, she decided to call Ashley. "Hello, Ashley." Olivia held her cell phone to her ear while gazing at the twilight view of New York City from her office window. "Oh, sis. What's the matter?" Ashley's voice had a mix of tension in it. "About the wedding invitation?" Olivia asked calmly. "It hasn't arrived yet, so I was wondering if perhaps you had the wrong address." After a moment of silence, Ashley coldly said, "Actually, Olivia, I've decided not to invite you." "What? What are you saying?" Olivia's voice trembled with surprise. "The reason is simple," Ashley continued flatly. "It's because you're unmarried. James's family comes from a traditional background. Having a 34-year-old unmarried woman attend would give them a bad impression. James's mother also said that having a single woman would bring down the atmosphere." "Ashley, are you serious?" "I'm your sister," Olivia said in disbelief. "That's precisely why." Ashley's voice was cold. "Don't interfere with the start of my new life. This is also a business matter. I've already spoken with Mom and Dad. They understood." After the phone call ended, Olivia stood frozen. Her heart was wrapped in darkness. The next day, Olivia visited her parents' home to speak with them directly. Martha greeted her with cold eyes in the living room. "Mom, Ashley said she's not inviting me to the wedding." "I can't believe it," Olivia said with a serious expression. Martha took a sip of her tea, still seated on the sofa. "I know. And you think that's okay?" Olivia asked. Martha laughed coldly. "Of course. Having an unmarried daughter is a family disgrace. Ashley is marrying into a fine family, so she can't show them an embarrassment like you." Those words cut through Olivia's heart. "Mom, am I an embarrassment to you? 34 years old, single, and with no sign of getting married." "You're a failure as a Watson daughter," Martha said cruelly. "Does Dad feel the same way?" Olivia asked in a trembling voice. Harold, standing in the corner of the living room, looked down. "Olivia, this is a difficult matter, considering Ashley's future." "So Dad also agrees with excluding me," tears welled up in Olivia's eyes. She left her parents' home. The sense of alienation she had felt since childhood now overwhelmed her completely. Olivia walked unconsciously, and before she knew it, she was standing in front of the cafe near Central Park that she frequented. As she entered the cafe and gazed blankly out the window, a voice called from behind. "Olivia." Turning around, there stood Robert Carter. He was the president of Premier Properties, and a familiar face she occasionally saw at this cafe. "Robert," Olivia smiled in surprise. "Hello. Alone?" Robert asked. "May I join you, if you don't mind?" As Robert sat down, he noticed Olivia's red eyes. "Are you okay? Did something happen?" Normally, Olivia would have answered, "Nothing," but today was different. She told him about her sister, the wedding she wasn't invited to, and her parents' cold response. "No way." Robert's face clouded. "That's unbelievable. I'm especially surprised that Ashley used my company's values as an excuse. Premier Properties is a company that values diversity and respects individual lifestyles." "I see." Olivia nodded slightly. "But maybe I really am a disgrace to my family." "Not at all," Robert said earnestly. "Olivia, you've chosen your own path and succeeded. That's something to be proud of." That night, they had dinner together at a small restaurant in Manhattan. The more they talked, the more they realized there was a strange resonance between them. "Ashley works for your company, doesn't she?" Olivia suddenly said. "Yes," Robert nodded. "She's a capable employee, but the prejudiced corporate culture she described doesn't exist in my company." As the night deepened, their conversation shifted from work and family to personal dreams and hopes. Olivia felt a sense of security she hadn't experienced in a long time. Over the next few weeks, Olivia and Robert's relationship deepened rapidly. They talked about each other's companies, shared future dreams, and sometimes discussed past pain. "I'd like to keep our relationship secret for a while," Robert suggested one night. "For business reasons. I'm Ashley's direct supervisor, and also James's boss. I want to maintain a professional relationship." Olivia showed understanding. "Of course. I feel the same way. If Ashley found out about our relationship now, she would surely." "She might get jealous," Robert continued. 2 weeks before the wedding, Robert invited Olivia for a picnic in Central Park. "Olivia," Robert took her hand. "Since meeting you, my life has changed. You're not just beautiful, but intelligent, caring, and strong." He took a small box from his pocket. "Olivia Watson, will you marry me?" Olivia gasped with surprise and joy. Robert, "Yes, gladly." They embraced and kissed. At that moment, a thought crossed Olivia's mind. "Robert, what about Ashley's wedding? What are you planning to do?" "I'm invited as the company president." And I intend to go with my fiancé, Robert smiled. But Ashley. If she invited me, she must accept my companion, Robert said. That's social etiquette. But I don't want to ruin her wedding. We won't ruin anything, Robert declared. We're just attending the ceremony. Olivia made up her mind. All right. We'll go together. It wasn't just about revenge. Olivia wanted to show her own worth by appearing proudly with someone who recognized her value. And my mother will finally not be able to say, an unmarried daughter is the family's disgrace, she laughed softly. You are no one's disgrace. You are my pride, Olivia, Robert kissed her cheek. And so they planned to reveal the truth on the day of Ashley's wedding. It wasn't just revenge, but part of Olivia's journey to reclaim her self-worth. On the morning of the wedding day, sunshine streamed into the luxury hotel, Grand Regency, in Manhattan, which was bustling with preparations for Ashley and James's lavish wedding. Pure white roses and lilies adorned the venue, and crystal chandeliers glittered from the ceiling. Olivia was carefully preparing in her apartment, a short distance from the hotel. She chose a silver-gray silk dress. It was elegant yet somehow eye-catching. 1 hour until her appointment with Robert. She stood in front of the mirror and took a deep breath. Today isn't just about revenge, she reminded herself. This is a day for me. Meanwhile, in the hotel's bridal suite, Ashley was surrounded by makeup artists and hairstylists. Her expression mixed tension and excitement. Everything will be perfect today, Ashley smiled at her reflection in the mirror. I'll make a good impression on James's family. Especially his mother. Martha entered the room and embraced her daughter. Ashley, you look truly beautiful. The pride of the Watson family. In the lobby, James was chatting with friends, but occasionally checking his watch, showing signs of unease. He knew his boss Robert was coming, which put considerable pressure on him. Right on time, Olivia met Robert in front of the hotel. He was dressed in a deep navy suit and his eyes lit up when he saw Olivia. You look beautiful, he took her hand. Ready? Olivia took a deep breath and nodded. Yes, let's go. They entered the hotel lobby with confidence. At the reception, a young woman with a guest list looked at them with a confused expression. Your name? She asked. Robert Carter, Robert answered confidently. And this is my fiancée, Olivia Watson. The woman looked at the list and frowned. Mr. Carter is listed here, but Ms. Watson's name is. She's my companion, Robert said in a calm but firm voice. Surely the company president can attend, and my fiancé as well. The woman hesitated for a moment but quickly regained her smile and guided them. Of course. This way please. In the grandly decorated grand ballroom, many guests were already seated. Family and close friends sat in the front rows, while other company associates and friends sat toward the back. Soft classical music played, creating an elegant atmosphere. As Olivia and Robert entered the venue, several eyes turned to them, and soon a small murmur spread. Olivia saw the surprised expressions of familiar guests and straightened her back, though nervous. Martha, seated in the front row, turned around and upon seeing Olivia and Robert, the blood drained from her face. She immediately whispered something to Harold beside her. Harold also turned around and wore a surprised expression. In the preparation room, Ashley was making final adjustments. One of her friends rushed into the room. Ashley, something terrible is happening, the friend said breathlessly. Olivia is here. And she's with Robert Carter. What? Ashley's face turned pale. Olivia is here. Even though I didn't invite her. Meanwhile, in the venue, James noticed Robert and hurriedly approached. President, thank you for coming. James said, forcing a smile. However, his eyes showed confusion when he saw Olivia. But why is Olivia? James, congratulations, Robert said calmly. She's my companion. Is there a problem? No, of course. James stumbled over his words. Just, Ashley. Ashley what? Olivia asked in a gentle voice. James answered, choosing his words carefully. She might be surprised. But of course, you're welcome. At this moment, Martha approached. She wore a fake smile, but her eyes were cold, unable to hide her anger. Olivia, I didn't expect you to come, she said in a low voice. You weren't invited. Hello, Mother, Olivia replied calmly. I came as Robert's companion. You know he's invited, don't you? Mr. Carter, Martha turned to Robert, suddenly becoming amiable. Welcome. But if you had informed us earlier. Is there a problem? Robert asked calmly. Martha was at a loss for words and left. She immediately went to the preparation room to inform Ashley of the situation. Music announcing the start of the ceremony began to play. As guests took their seats, Ashley's father Harold appeared from the preparation room to escort his daughter. However, his expression showed anxiety. Olivia and Robert quietly sat in the back row. A quiet tension lingered between them, but Robert gently held Olivia's hand, giving her reassurance. Are you all right? He asked softly. Yes, Olivia smiled. Because you're with me. The ceremony began, and James stood at the altar with his attendants. Then the wedding march rang out, and Ashley entered on Harold's arm. She was wrapped in a beautiful wedding dress, radiating so brightly that everyone was captivated. However, when her eyes rested on Olivia and Robert, her expression froze for a moment. Nevertheless, the ceremony proceeded smoothly, and the couple exchanged vows and rings. When the minister declared, "I now pronounce you husband and wife," loud applause erupted from the venue. After the ceremony, it was time for photographs. During the family photos, Martha tried to exclude Olivia, but Harold insisted Olivia should be included, causing a brief argument. In the end, Olivia said, "It's okay, Dad. I can take separate photos later," diffusing the situation. Before the reception began, Robert headed to the stage and took the microphone. As this wasn't in the program, a silence spread across the venue. Everyone, I'm honored to be part of this special day, Robert began in a calm voice. James is an important member of my company, and I sincerely wish him and Ashley happiness. The guests applauded politely. Ashley was smiling next to James, but her eyes couldn't hide her anxiety. And I'd like to take this opportunity to share some happy news of my own, Robert continued. I am engaged to Olivia Watson. The venue was enveloped in complete silence, followed by a small murmur. The blood drained from Ashley's face, and Martha turned pale. James looked at Robert with a confused expression. I'm very proud of Olivia and her success, Robert said, looking around the room. She has built her career without dedicating herself to marriage. And now, she has come here today as my fiancée. Olivia slowly stood up and stepped forward to stand beside Robert. The murmur in the venue grew louder. Martha began to say, "This can't be." But Olivia continued. Mother, you said, an unmarried daughter is the family's disgrace, Olivia said in a quiet but strong voice. But I'm no longer unmarried. I'm engaged to Robert. I've even acquired the one thing you value, marriage. But the difference is, I'm marrying someone I love. Not for status or appearances. Ashley's face reddened with anger and humiliation, and James repeatedly apologized to Robert. President, I'm truly sorry. We didn't know. Robert calmly raised his hand, interrupting James. There's no need to apologize, James. Today is your day. We came to celebrate that. And turning to James and Ashley with a serious expression, he continued, but I'd like to say one thing. At my company, We respect individual circumstances and choices. People should be respected regardless of their family structure or marital status. I expect the same from you as a couple. The guests, though surprised by this unexpected turn, nodded quietly to Robert's words. Martha tried to smooth things over. Of course, Mr. Carter, she said in a sweet voice. We think the same way. We cherish Olivia very much. Mom, Olivia said in a gentle yet firm voice. That's enough. Today is Ashley's day. I don't intend to interfere with her. The reception proceeded as planned, with music playing, food being served, and speeches being given. However, the atmosphere had already changed. Many guests showed interest in Olivia and Robert, approaching to offer congratulations. Colleagues in particular paid their respects to Olivia as Robert's fiancée. Ashley maintained a smile on the surface, but anger and jealousy flickered in her eyes. Her perfect day had been overshadowed by her sister's unexpected appearance and engagement announcement. When it was time for dancing, Robert invited Olivia to the dance floor. Many guests looked on with admiration as the two danced gracefully. No regrets about today? Robert whispered in her ear. None at all, Olivia smiled. I've reclaimed my worth. And because you were with me. That evening, before Ashley and James departed for their honeymoon, Olivia and Robert bid them farewell. Congratulations, Ashley, Olivia said to her sister. Be happy. Ashley looked at Olivia with a complex expression. Her eyes mixed anger and a hint of regret. Let's talk about us later, Olivia added gently. We're family. As Olivia and Robert left the hotel, she looked back, thinking of the path she had walked. The rejection from her family, and today's events, it wasn't just revenge, it was her liberation. Ready? Robert took her hand. Yes, Olivia smiled. For a new beginning. As stars shone in the night sky, the two walked hand in hand. This day for Olivia wasn't just her sister's wedding day, but a day she reaffirmed her own worth. And with someone who truly loved and respected her, she took her first step towards a new family. The reception continued with elegant music and brilliant lighting. About 30 minutes after Olivia and Robert's engagement announcement, the initial shock had subsided, but guests were still buzzing about the couple. That editor woman is engaged to Robert Carter. Did you know she's Ashley's sister? Apparently she wasn't invited. President Carter and Ashley's sister. This is surprising. Such whispers spread from table to table. While being sociable, Olivia noticed that Ashley was nowhere to be seen. James maintained his smile while talking to guests, but his eyes occasionally glanced toward the door, showing an anxious expression. Where's Ashley? Robert asked James. I think she's taking a break, James answered, trying to cover up. She'll be back soon, I'm sure. However, Olivia sensed the situation. She whispered to Robert, I'll go find her. Olivia quietly left the venue and walked down the hotel corridor. She stopped in front of what she thought was the bride's lounge and knocked lightly. Ashley. It's me, Olivia. After a moment of silence, a faint, come in, was heard. Entering the room, she found Ashley standing by the window, still in her wedding dress. Her eyes were red and swollen with tears. Congratulations, Ashley, Olivia said quietly. I didn't mean to ruin your special day. Ashley turned around with an angry expression. Lies. You did it on purpose. Announcing your engagement with Robert at my wedding. I just came with Robert, Olivia replied calmly. He was invited. And he just wanted to introduce his fiancée. But why today? Ashley's voice trembled. Why on my special day? This happened because you excluded me, Olivia said sadly. I'm your sister, Ashley. You thought your blood sister was embarrassing just because I was unmarried. At those words, a flash of regret appeared in Ashley's eyes. But she quickly returned to a defensive attitude. I just wanted to make a good impression on James's family. You don't understand. I try to understand, Olivia said quietly. But family means supporting and respecting each other. You and Mom thought I was a disgrace just because I'm not married. Can you imagine how much that hurts? Suddenly, the door opened, and Martha came in. Her expression was hard and tense. What are you two? She began, but stopped when she saw Ashley's tear-stained face. Ashley, are you okay? Mom, we were just talking, Olivia said. Martha stared at Olivia, and it was clear her expression was gradually changing. A momentary guilt seemed to flash in her eyes. Olivia, Martha said in an unusually soft voice. I'm sorry for hurting you. Please forgive an old mother's prejudice. Olivia was surprised by these words, but quickly saw through the hidden intention behind her mother's eyes. It wasn't a sincere apology, but just putting on an act now that she knew about the relationship with Robert Carter. Mom, Olivia looked straight into Martha's eyes. Have you ever really tried to understand me? You thought I was the family's disgrace just because I was unmarried. That's not true, Martha said defensively. I was just worried. But now, knowing you're engaged to such a wonderful man like Robert, I'm truly happy. I chose a person who respects me, not a title, Olivia said quietly. Whoever Robert might be, I chose him because he loves me and respects my choices. Ashley was watching their exchange with a complex expression. Her eyes showed anger and a hint of envy. Olivia, Ashley suddenly spoke up. I. Guests are waiting, Ashley, Martha took her daughter's arm. It's your wedding. Let's fix your makeup. Olivia was curious about what Ashley was trying to say, but didn't pursue it. Today was Ashley's day. She just smiled and said, James is worried. Let's go back. Olivia paused before leaving the room and turned back. True family means supporting and respecting each other. I'll be creating a new family with Robert. But I still want to cherish my bond with you all. Whenever you're ready. She closed the door and began walking down the hallway. Robert was waiting for her. Are you okay? He asked worriedly. Yes, Olivia smiled. I'm fine now. They held hands and returned to the reception. Music was playing, and people were dancing on the dance floor. James noticed them and looked relieved. Soon after, Ashley returned with Martha. Her makeup had been fixed, and she had regained her smile, but something different lingered in her eyes. Olivia and Ashley's gazes crossed for a moment, and an unspoken understanding flowed between them. Today became not just a wedding, but a day that brought a new turning point in the relationship between the two sisters. The reception continued, and Olivia felt a true victory wrapped in Robert's love. It wasn't just revenge, but the joy of finding someone who recognized her worth. And she quietly hoped that one day, her relationship with her family would also heal. Ashley's wedding proceeded as planned, but the rift that had formed in the family couldn't be easily repaired. However, beyond that rift, a new possibility of understanding and respect had begun to emerge. Olivia believed in that and had begun walking forward. A year later, on a sunny Sunday, a small party was held in Central Park. It was a private gathering to celebrate Olivia and Robert's first wedding anniversary. The two had a small ceremony with just close friends half a year after the wedding day, and now lived in a peaceful happiness. Cheers! As friends raised their glasses, Robert squeezed Olivia's hand. To my beloved wife. Thank you for enriching my life. Olivia smiled and kissed Robert. She still pursued her career as before, but had found new happiness with Robert. The couple had just started a charity for an educational program for underprivileged children. They're here, one of the friends whispered. When Olivia turned around, Ashley and James were standing at the park entrance. They approached with somewhat anxious expressions. "Congratulations," Ashley said in a small voice, offering a bouquet of flowers. "Thank you for inviting us." "I'm glad you could come," Olivia answered sincerely. Ashley and James's married life hadn't been as smooth as imagined. James had expected a promotion at Robert's company, but Robert calmly evaluated his abilities and character, deciding he wasn't suitable for a higher position. As a result, the luxurious life Ashley had dreamed of had not materialized. "How's work?" Olivia asked gently. "It's okay," Ashley answered with a slightly tired expression. "But lately, I've been rethinking my own career. Not just relying on James's promotion." Olivia noticed the change in Ashley. Her eyes no longer held shallow ambition, but a light of deeper self-understanding. "Let me know if there's anything I can help with," Olivia said sincerely. "Thank you," Ashley answered honestly. Later that afternoon, Martha and Harold also appeared. Martha hugged Olivia and kissed her cheek. "Lovely party, Olivia. I read your new article. It was wonderful." "Thank you, Mom," Olivia smiled, but her smile mixed with a little caution. Over the past year, Martha had tried to repair her relationship with Olivia. However, her attitude still sometimes showed signs of calculation. "I'm so happy you married such a fine man as Robert," Martha said, tilting her wine glass. "As a daughter of the Watson family, you made an excellent choice." "I chose a person who respects me, not a title, Mom," Olivia said quietly. "That's what's wonderful about Robert." Martha was momentarily lost for words, but quickly regained her smile. "Of course, that's what matters." Meanwhile, Harold had moved a little away from Martha's influence and was trying to build a better relationship with Olivia. He took his daughter's arm and walked to a spot a little distance away. "Daughter, I was wrong," Harold said with a serious expression. "For not being able to protect you on that wedding day, can you forgive me?" "Dad," Olivia held his hand. "It might take time, but let's start over. You're my father." Tears gleamed in Harold's eyes. "Thank you. I'm proud of your strength and kindness." As the day began to wane, Olivia found Ashley sitting alone on a bench. She quietly sat down beside her. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia asked gently. "You," Ashley said after a moment of silence. "I was jealous of you. Always. You forged your own path and succeeded. I just dreamed of becoming someone's wife." "There's nothing wrong with that," Olivia said. "What's important is knowing what you want. And being with someone who respects your choices." Ashley smiled. "I've started to realize that recently. James and I have been talking a lot about our future. He's trying to change too." The two quietly gazed at the sunset. The air flowing between the sisters was filled with new understanding and respect, not the tension or jealousy of the past. That night, after all the guests had left, Olivia and Robert were looking up at the starry sky from their apartment balcony. "Happy?" Robert put his arm around her shoulder. "Very," Olivia smiled. "My relationship with my family is getting better little by little." "Some things take time," Robert said. "But with love and respect, you can overcome anything." Olivia looked up at the night sky, reflecting on her journey over the past year. The family that once said, "An unmarried daughter is the family's disgrace," was now beginning to change. Through pain, and through her own strength and kindness, they were learning that the true value of family lies in love and respect. Olivia squeezed Robert's hand, thinking of the future. In her eyes shone a light of new hope. Melissa Walker was checking her work emails while drinking her morning coffee. She worked as a chief accountant at a small accounting firm in Cleveland, Ohio. The morning sun streaming through the window illuminated her slightly tired face. The shelves in the room were lined with photos of her and her 8-year-old son, Michael. "Michael, time to get up. You'll be late for school." She called out toward the hallway, but there was no response. That's right, Michael was at her parents' house now. Melissa placed her hand on her large belly and thought about the baby that would soon be born. The due date was 3 weeks away. 3 weeks ago, Melissa had shown signs of premature labor, and her doctor had prescribed complete bed rest. It was impossible to rest while taking care of an 8-year-old son by herself. Her ex-husband Thomas had moved to another state after their divorce 3 years ago, and she couldn't expect him to help on a daily basis. "Mom, thank you so much for looking after Michael for a while." Melissa expressed her gratitude to her mother Judith over the phone. Her parents lived in the suburbs of Cleveland and were happy to take care of their grandson Michael. However, she had noticed subtle changes in her parents recently. Her mother in particular seemed less warm than before and appeared to be rushed, as if chased by something. "Don't worry. You just think about the baby. Leave Michael to us." Judith's voice was cheerful, but Melissa was concerned about the sound of slot machines in the background. "Mom, are you at the casino again?" "It's just entertainment, don't worry. Your father and I go once a week. It helps relieve stress." Melissa felt anxious but had no choice but to trust her parents. Since childhood, her parents, especially her father Lawrence, had been meticulous and responsible people. He had worked at a bank for 40 years and led a steady life. Even after retirement, he actively participated in community volunteer activities. Her mother Judith, a former elementary school teacher, was a warm and caring person. The fact that her parents had started going to the casino more frequently than their once-a-week routine might have been triggered by her father being laid off last year. Still, Melissa thought they would surely take good care of Michael. On the day her labor started earlier than expected, Melissa hurriedly called an ambulance. After arriving at the hospital, she called her parents. "Mom, I've gone into labor. I just got to the hospital." "Oh my. With still 3 weeks to go. Are you all right?" "The doctor says they're going to do an emergency C-section right away. Tell Michael that Mommy will see the baby soon." "I understand. Don't worry. We'll take care of Michael." That night, Melissa gave birth to a little girl. She named her Emma. However, she developed complications after delivery and had to stay in the hospital longer than planned. "Can I talk to Michael?" Melissa called from her hospital room every day. For the first few days, she was able to enjoy short conversations with Michael. Hearing her son's voice was a great encouragement for her recovery. "Mommy, I played guitar with Grandpa. And Grandma's cookies were so delicious." Michael sounded fine. However, after about a week, it became more difficult to get in touch with her parents. The times when they didn't answer the phone increased, and even when they did, the noisy music of a casino was always playing in the background. "Mom, where's Michael?" "He's out playing with friends right now. I'll have him call you back when he returns." However, those later calls often never came. Melissa's anxiety grew day by day. On the 10th day, the doctor finally gave her permission to leave the hospital. Melissa held baby Emma in her arms and left the hospital room, accompanied by the nurses. She called her parents several times, but no one answered. "Michael." She felt her chest tighten with anxiety. She called a taxi and decided to head to her home first. Maybe her parents had brought Michael there and were waiting for her. Hoping so, she hugged her newborn daughter. Melissa got out of the taxi, and while holding baby Emma, she headed for the front door of her home. When she unlocked the door and entered, she immediately noticed there was no one there. Silence greeted her, and anxiety spread through her chest. "Michael? Mom? Dad?" Her voice just echoed in the empty house. She hastily looked around the living room, but there was no sign that Michael had been staying there. She quickly took out her cell phone and dialed her parents' number again. The phone kept ringing, but there was no answer. What on earth is going on? Feeling her heart pounding, Melissa got back into the taxi with the baby and headed to her parents' house. 20 minutes later, she was standing in front of Lawrence and Judith's house. "I've arrived at my parents' house, but something seems strange." She rang the doorbell several times while holding the baby with one hand, but there was no response. "There are flyers piling up in the mailbox, and the newspaper hasn't been taken in." Melissa frowned as she looked at the mailbox on the porch. Usually, her father had a habit of bringing in the newspaper every morning. She walked around the house and tried to peek through the windows, but the curtains were drawn, and she couldn't see inside well. Growing increasingly anxious, she decided to go around to the backyard. The once beautifully maintained garden was now overgrown with weeds. The rose bushes her father had been so proud of were wilting, perhaps from lack of water. "It looks like nobody has taken care of this place for days." Melissa knocked on the back door and called out, "Dad? Mom? Michael? Is anyone there?" But there was no reply. The air felt cold, and she pulled the baby closer to her chest. Emma looked up at her mother with curious eyes. The front door was locked, and it seemed no one was inside. Her anxiety was turning into fear. Suddenly, she heard a small noise from the backyard. Melissa walked carefully toward the sound. In the back of the yard was an old wooden shed. Melissa looked at the shed, and memories came back to her. "That shed, that's where Dad used to keep his pet pig, isn't it?" When she was a teenager, her father had kept a miniature Vietnamese pot-bellied pig as a hobby. However, the pig had died several years ago, and the shed had hardly been used since. Melissa approached the shed and called out, "Is anyone there? Michael?" A faint sobbing sound came from the shed. Melissa felt her heart stop for a moment. She held the baby tight with one arm and ran to the shed. The rusty door was slightly open. She pried it open and looked inside. In the darkness, her eyes caught sight of her son. Michael was sitting on the dirty floor, holding pig feed in his hands and trembling. His clothes were dirty, his hair was disheveled, and his face showed clear traces of tears. When he noticed his mother, he looked up in surprise. "Michael! What are you doing?" Michael turned around in surprise, and when he saw his mom, tears welled up. "Mommy! I'm hungry. Grandpa and Grandma haven't come back for days." There was nothing in the refrigerator. Melissa rushed to her trembling son and hugged him. The boy's small body was cold and shaking. "How long have you been here? Where did Grandpa and Grandma go?" Michael answered while sobbing, 3 days ago. "Grandma said, we're going out for a bit, but they didn't come back. They don't answer the phone. I was scared." Melissa was speechless at her son's words. 3 days. Her 8-year-old son had been left alone for 3 days. "You've been here alone. What about food?" "There was some in the refrigerator at first, but it ran out. I was so hungry, there was pig feed here." Melissa stared at her son's face. Michael's cheeks were sunken, and there were dark shadows under his eyes. He was clearly malnourished and frightened. Anger welled up inside Melissa. What on earth were her parents thinking? She held her newborn baby in one arm and embraced her son with the other. "It's okay now, Michael. Mommy's here." Enraged, Melissa took Michael's hand and headed for her parents' house. She told her son to wait in the backyard, then forced open a window and entered the house. The inside of the house was in a worse state than she had imagined. Food scraps, empty alcohol bottles, and numerous lottery tickets and casino receipts were scattered about. It was unbelievable that this was the house of her meticulous parents. Melissa called her parents' cell phones several times with trembling hands. On the fifth attempt, her mother finally answered. "Hello?" Judith's voice was cheerful, with the noisy sounds of a casino in the background. "Melissa? I'm busy right now, let's talk later." Melissa's anger exploded. "I found Michael eating pig feed in the pig pen. What's going on?" After a brief silence, Judith responded, "You're exaggerating. There should have been food in the refrigerator. Don't bother me. I'm on a roll right now. The refrigerator is empty. Michael has been left alone for days." Melissa's voice trembled. "Not that long, probably a day or two." "Oh, the dealer is calling me. I'll call you back later." The call ended, and Melissa was at a loss for words. She was trembling with anger. The sense of responsibility, love for family, and trust that her parents had taught her since childhood, it all felt like it was crumbling away. She quickly took Michael back to her own house. As soon as they arrived, she gave him a warm bath and changed him into clean clothes. She took food from the refrigerator and made a simple meal. Michael ate hungrily, as if starved for a warm meal. After the meal, Melissa checked her son's body. Fortunately, there were no major injuries, but signs of mild dehydration and malnutrition were evident. "It's okay now, Michael. Mommy is with you. And here's Emma, your new sister. I'll never let you go through something like that again." Michael clung to his mother, finally feeling safe enough to break down in tears. Melissa held her son to her chest, stroking his small back, and vowed in her heart she would fight to protect these children, no matter what. She didn't know what had happened to her parents, but for now, the safety of Michael and Emma was her top priority. That night, after the children had fallen asleep, Melissa sat on the living room sofa and covered her face with both hands. Her parents, people she had respected, loved, and trusted, why had they done this? She would have to seek answers tomorrow, but tonight she was exhausted. After checking on the children's breathing, she finally allowed her tired body to rest. Sunlight streamed through a gap in the curtains, illuminating Melissa's face. She woke from her sleep, hoping for a moment that yesterday's events had been a nightmare. However, seeing Emma's small cries from the next room and Michael sleeping on the sofa, she remembered the reality. She slowly got up and went to Emma's room. Picking up the baby and nursing her, she organized what needed to be done today. First, she needed to contact Child Protective Services, then consult with a lawyer. While making breakfast, Melissa gently woke Michael. "Good morning, Michael. Did you sleep well?" Michael sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Yes, it's been a while since I slept at Mom's house." Melissa stroked her son's hair and put pancakes on a plate. "Let's take it easy today. You can go to school if you want, or you can stay home and rest." "I want to stay home," Michael said in a small voice. "Will Grandpa and Grandma come back?" Melissa answered, choosing her words carefully, "I don't know right now. But don't worry. Mommy will always be with you." After breakfast, Melissa called Child Protective Services. She explained the situation in detail and reported that Michael had been abandoned in a pig pen. A woman's voice on the other end of the phone responded quietly. "This sounds like a serious case. We'll send a caseworker today. How is your child's current condition?" "I administered first aid last night. He seems to have mild dehydration and malnutrition, but I don't think there's any major health damage." 2 hours later, Child Protective Services caseworker Carol Johnson visited the house. In her 50s, she had a warm smile and sharp eyes. After talking with Melissa, she also spoke kindly with Michael. Carol continued the conversation in Melissa's kitchen. "This is clearly a case of child abandonment. How is Michael's health?" Melissa responded while holding Emma, a pediatrician examined him. He has dehydration and mild malnutrition, but no major health issues. I'm more concerned about psychological trauma. Considering your child's condition, I think it would be good to refer him to a specialized counselor, Carol said, taking notes. Have you been able to contact your parents? I spoke with them briefly yesterday while they were at a casino, but they haven't answered their phones since. Carol said with a serious expression, in this case, we need to consider reporting this to the police. I also recommend applying for a temporary protection order. The safety of your children should be the top priority. Melissa nodded. She loved her parents, but the safety of Michael and Emma came first. I understand. Please tell me the necessary procedures. After Carol left, Melissa contacted her lawyer, Sarah Miller. Sarah was a trusted lawyer who had also helped during her divorce. She explained the situation and consulted about a temporary restraining order against her parents. Melissa, this is a serious situation. Child abandonment can become a criminal case. Sarah's voice conveyed her seriousness even over the phone. Also, we need to consider the possibility that your parents are having financial problems. Spending at casinos. I'm worried about whether Michael's assets are involved. Melissa gasped. What do you mean? Your parents were involved with Michael's trust fund, right? Yes, a $50,000 college education fund combining child support from my ex-husband and my savings. I thought my parents were more financially responsible than I was. Sarah exhaled deeply on the other end of the phone. We need to check on those funds. I'll investigate on my end. A few days later, Sarah called. Her voice was dark and heavy. I have bad news. Michael's trust fund was completely withdrawn 6 months ago. It was approved by your parents. Melissa collapsed into a chair. All $50,000. Why? Furthermore, 3 credit cards have been created in your parents' names, with debts totaling $150,000. Some of it is from casino cash advance services. Melissa was speechless. Her parents, who had always lectured her about financial responsibility, had betrayed her trust and used up funds meant for her grandson's future. I can't believe it, they always lectured me about money management. Sarah continued quietly, these are typical symptoms of gambling addiction, Melissa. Your parents are sick. However, that doesn't justify what they did. The next day, further investigation revealed that Lawrence and Judith had fallen into gambling addiction over the past 2 years and had accumulated debts. They had also used up Lawrence's retirement money. A foreclosure notice had already been delivered to their house. Melissa was confused and hurt. In her heart, feelings of anger and concern for her parents were mixed. But above all, protecting Michael was the top priority. She scheduled psychological counseling for her son and explained the situation to his school. In the evening, Melissa was preparing dinner. Michael was doing his homework, and Emma was sleeping in her crib. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Looking through the peephole, she saw her parents standing there, pale-faced and exhausted. Melissa hesitated for a moment but opened the door. Lawrence couldn't meet her eyes and stared at the floor. Melissa, please. Let us talk. Talk about what? About starving and abandoning your grandson? Or about stealing $50,000? Melissa's voice was cold. Judith said, crying, we need help. Melissa, despite trembling with anger, let them into the house. Michael had been left with a friend. Sitting face to face in the living room, Judith broke down in tears. We lost control of our gambling, we're being chased by debt collectors, our house is about to be foreclosed. Lawrence covered his face with both hands, his shoulders shaking. I'm so sorry about Michael. We only intended to go to the casino for a little while. But once we sit down, we can't get up, we lose track of time. And when we lose, We try to win it back by betting more. Judith said, barely getting the words out. We did leave food for Michael. But to not come back for 3 days, what have I done? Melissa listened to her parents' confession, torn between confusion and anger. She stood up and said in a trembling voice, I can't believe it. You are my parents. How could you? Lawrence said, looking down, it started after I was laid off. I went to the casino with my retirement money, and I won at first. I couldn't forget that thrill. And when we started losing, we tried to get it back. Judith continued. Melissa trembled with intense anger. What happened to Michael's education fund? Her parents were silent. Lawrence said in a small voice, we used it all, we were planning to get it back. Melissa angrily threw her parents out of the room. Get out right now. Do you understand how scared Michael was? He's only 8 years old. You left your own grandson starving in a pig pen, and you say, that wasn't our intention. Lawrence extended a trembling hand. Melissa, please. Let's talk. Talk. Where were you all this time? While I was in the hospital, you abandoned your grandson and went to the casino. You're not my parents anymore. Stay away from us. Judith broke down crying, and Lawrence left with slumped shoulders. Afterward, Melissa consulted with her lawyer and applied for a temporary restraining order against her parents. At the same time, she was told by the Child Protective Services caseworker that this was a serious case of child abandonment and that criminal charges might be filed. A few weeks later, just before notification from the court arrived, Lawrence visited Melissa's workplace. He was thinner than before, with deep traces of fatigue on his face. Daughter, please. We were completely wrong. Judith and I have been participating in a gambling addiction treatment program since last week. We know we don't deserve to see you or Michael. But. He held out a letter with trembling hands. It was an apology letter from Judith and a certificate of treatment participation from a local addiction counselor. Melissa accepted the letter, but her expression remained stern. Despite being torn by complex emotions, she wouldn't forgive them so easily. Getting treatment is the least you should do. But trust, once lost, is not easily regained. The wounds that Michael and I have received aren't going to heal so easily. Lawrence nodded and said as he left. I understand. We intend to prove ourselves over time. We don't want to lose you. Melissa would temporarily suspend legal action, but she felt there was still a long road ahead to repair the relationship with her parents. She held Judith's letter to her chest and gazed out the window. When she got home, Michael had just returned from school. He was gradually regaining his energy, but he still sometimes woke up from nightmares. Mom, did you have a good day at school? Melissa smiled at her son. Michael thought for a moment before answering, yes, but everyone asked me about Grandpa and Grandma. Melissa sat next to her son and put her arm around him. What did you tell them? I said Grandpa and Grandma are sick, and I can't see them for a while, Michael answered with a serious expression. Melissa stroked her son's head. That's right. Grandpa and Grandma are getting help right now. Will I see them again? There was a light of hope in Michael's eyes. Melissa exhaled deeply. Someday, for sure. But for now, let's do our best, the three of us, with Mommy and your sister. That night, after Michael had gone to bed, Melissa opened Judith's letter. In it, her mother had written words of deep regret and apology in trembling handwriting. My father, your grandfather, suffered from the same illness. He died leaving the family with huge debts. I had vowed not to repeat the same mistake, but I ended up following the same path. I want to break this chain of illness that spans generations right here. Melissa held the letter to her chest and cried. It was a complex mix of emotions, anger and sadness, along with a faint hope. 6 months had passed. In the warm spring sunshine streaming through the window, Melissa sat on the living room sofa, looking at the documents in her hand. It was the latest progress report from her parents' addiction counselor. During these 6 months, Melissa had learned much about her parents' gambling addiction and had joined a local gambling addiction family support group. Michael was receiving psychological counseling and was gradually recovering from his trauma. Emma was growing healthily and could already roll over, and recently she had started sitting up. As Melissa was reading the report, she received a call from the support group leader, Betty. "Melissa, are you coming to today's meeting?" Betty's warm voice came through the phone. "Yes, I plan to." After Michael's school, Melissa responded, marking her calendar. "Your parents' story is inspiring everyone. Especially the recent report that shows signs of recovery." Melissa looked out the window and took a deep breath. "They do seem to be really trying. But addiction is a disease, Melissa." Betty's voice was kind. "Your parents certainly did wrong, but they are suffering too." "I know. But it's hard to forgive them, especially when I see Michael still waking up from nightmares." "Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning their actions. It's about freeing yourself," Betty said quietly. "For your sake, and for Michael's." After hanging up, Melissa thought deeply. Her parents were indeed trying to change. They had set up a debt repayment plan, moved to a small apartment, and were seriously committed to treatment. Her father had started a part-time job at a local supermarket, and her mother had begun volunteering at an addiction support group. During this time, Melissa received a call from Michael's teacher. Michael had been crying at school, saying he wanted to see his grandparents. He was drawing a picture of his family during class, the teacher explained. His grandparents were included in the picture. He seems to want to see them. That night, Melissa talked with Michael. "Do you want to see Grandpa and Grandma?" she asked gently. Michael nodded. "Yes. I was scared, but I wondered if Grandpa and Grandma forgot about me." Melissa hugged her son. "They haven't forgotten you. They were just confused because of their illness. It seems they're getting better now." After consulting with the counselor, she decided to allow a short, supervised visit. The meeting would take place at the counselor's office, a neutral location. On the day of the visit, Michael was nervous but looking forward to seeing his grandparents. Lawrence and Judith had completed a 6-month gambling addiction treatment program and were regularly attending support groups. When they arrived at the counselor's office, Melissa had a brief conversation with her parents. "Melissa, thank you for this opportunity. To be able to see Michael." Tears shone in Judith's eyes. "This is what Michael wanted. I'm just respecting his feelings." Melissa's voice was calm. "We've been going to treatment every day for 6 months. We're slowly repaying our debts." Lawrence said, looking at the floor. "Let's not talk about the past today. I came only for Michael." The meeting between Michael and his grandparents was touching. Judith burst into tears upon seeing her grandson, and although hesitant at first, Michael hugged his grandparents. They talked quietly about Michael's school events and Emma's growth. As Melissa watched the meeting, complex emotions swirled in her heart. The anger at not being able to forgive her parents' mistakes conflicted with the desire to repair family bonds. After leaving the counselor's office, Melissa opened a family album at home. It contained photos of the family from happier times. One photo caught her eye. It was a picture of her at age 12, riding a boat on a lake with her parents. The words from Judith's letter came to mind. "My father, your grandfather, suffered from the same illness." Melissa began to view her parents' actions from a different perspective for the first time. Even if she couldn't forgive their actions, perhaps she could deepen her understanding of gambling addiction as a disease and its impact on families. A few months later, Melissa decided to invite her parents to a family therapy session. The purpose of this session was to create a safe space where all three could express their feelings and heal from past wounds. That day, when I found Michael in the pig pen, something broke inside me. I couldn't trust you anymore as my parents, Melissa confessed quietly. Judith responded while wiping away tears, we can't make excuses. Addiction is a disease, but we made the choices. Every day, we regret those decisions. Lawrence looked straight into his daughter's eyes. We will never make the same mistake again. We want to show that through our actions. Melissa exhaled deeply. It may take time to fully forgive. But I want to move forward one step at a time as a family. A year later, Melissa's family was gradually walking the path of healing. Lawrence and Judith had recovered from their gambling addiction and were volunteering at the local senior center, supporting elderly people struggling with addiction. To make amends for the harm they had caused Michael, they established a new education fund for him, saving a small amount each month. Melissa herself had become a leader in the addiction family support group, using her experiences to help other families. She hadn't completely forgiven her parents, but she was gradually regaining trust. Michael and his sister Emma were growing up healthy, and their relationship with their grandparents was slowly being repaired. Sometimes on weekends, they would have dinner together at her parents' new apartment. That day, the sight of Michael in the pig pen had been a symbol of the family's crisis. But now, it served as a memory of the difficulties they had overcome, becoming the foundation for building a stronger family relationship. Melissa now understands. The path to family recovery is never linear, it's a process of repeated setbacks and progress. And most importantly, it's about having the courage to acknowledge past mistakes, face them responsibly, and walk step by step toward the future. One summer day, while having a picnic in the park, watching Michael running around and Emma rolling on the grass, Melissa asked Lawrence, "How did you manage to recover from that day?" Lawrence answered while looking at his grandchildren, "When I almost lost Michael, I finally realized what I was doing. Addiction doesn't just destroy yourself. It hurts the ones you love. That was the most unbearable part." Melissa nodded quietly. The wounds remained, but she had learned to live with them. And above all, she felt that she had learned much from this painful experience and had become stronger. Family isn't perfect, but they can learn, grow, and sometimes hurt each other, yet reconnect through love and forgiveness. Noah, don't forget your lunch. Elizabeth Morrison hurried toward the front door. She grabbed the lunch box left on the kitchen counter and called out to her son, who was still washing his face. "Sorry, Mom. Coming right now." Noah's reply came from the bathroom. At 12 years old, her son had gradually grown taller, and his voice was beginning to deepen. Even so, mornings were always hectic. Ellie glanced at the clock and let out a small sigh. If they didn't leave within 15 minutes, she would be late for her hospital shift. "Hurry up. You'll miss the bus." When Noah rushed out with his hair still wet, Ellie couldn't help but smile. It had been 5 years since her divorce, and every day had been like this since she started living alone with her son. Still, with Noah's cheerful personality, Ellie had somehow managed to get through her days as a single mother. "Mom, can I go to Jason's house after school today?" Noah asked while stuffing his lunchbox into his backpack. "What about homework?" "I'll finish it all before I go. I promise." Ellie thought for a moment, then nodded. "All right. But be home by dinner time." "Thanks, Mom." The sound of Noah running toward the front door echoed through the house. Ellie quickly grabbed her own bag and followed after her son. She worked as a nurse at the local general hospital. Though her job was busy, she was grateful that her regular shifts allowed her to attend most of Noah's school events. Her nurse's salary wasn't particularly high, but it was enough to support the two of them. However, she could barely save anything and constantly worried about the future. After the divorce, child support from her ex-husband Greg had become irregular, forcing Ellie to become financially and emotionally independent. After seeing Noah off at the bus stop, Ellie got into her car. During the 15-minute drive to the hospital, she usually organized the day's plans in her head. Today she had a shift until evening, after which she needed to prepare Noah's dinner and do the laundry. Her mother Deborah's birthday party was coming up this weekend, but that was yet another worry. Deborah Morrison, still energetic at 60, ran a successful real estate business and was known as one of the wealthiest people in town. She always demanded perfection and had high expectations for her daughters. She had repeatedly told Ellie to get it together, while treating her younger sister Rachel with favoritism. That difference remained unchanged. Rachel lived with her husband Michael and their 16-year-old daughter Emma in a nice house in the suburbs. Michael worked for a prominent local company, and Rachel's family enjoyed a comfortable financial life. Despite this, Deborah frequently provided Rachel's family with financial assistance. Why always Rachel? Ellie murmured to herself, then quickly dismissed the thought. There was no point in making comparisons now. What mattered was her life with Noah. What Ellie could never understand was why her mother would lavish expensive gifts on Rachel's daughter Emma while only giving practical items to Noah, even though both were her grandchildren. Parking her car in the hospital lot, Ellie took a deep breath. Many patients needed her today. She had to set aside her personal worries and focus on her duties as a nurse. "Good morning, Ellie." Her colleague Sarah waved to her in the hospital lobby. "Morning, Sarah. How's it going today?" "It's busy. The emergency room is full, and new patients keep coming in." Ellie nodded and headed to the staff room. After changing into her uniform and neatly putting up her hair, she pinned her Elizabeth Morrison name tag to her chest. Here, she was neither a mother nor a daughter, but a professional healthcare worker. There was a certain comfort in that. That afternoon, while Ellie was checking a patient's chart, her smartphone rang. It was Rachel calling. "What is it?" "This is unusual." "Ellie, about Mom's birthday party. Can you help on Saturday?" It was typical of Rachel to ask for help that way. Ellie hesitated slightly but eventually agreed. "All right. What time should I come?" "Around 10 in the morning would be great." "Oh, and..." Rachel paused before continuing. "Mom mentioned she wants to discuss Emma's study abroad in England." Ellie frowned. Emma studying abroad in England? This was the first she'd heard of it. Study abroad? I haven't heard about this. It's still in the planning stages. But Mom says she'll support it. Understanding the implication, Ellie felt a bitter taste in her mouth. Once again, her mother was planning to provide financial assistance to Rachel's family. When Noah had asked about college, Deborah had simply told him to look for scholarships. "I see. Let's meet on Saturday." After hanging up, Ellie took another deep breath. She should be used to this by now, but there was always a small pain lingering in her heart. Still, she had no choice but to keep moving forward. For Noah's sake, and for her own. "The patient in room 3 is calling for you," a colleague informed her. Brought back to reality, Ellie smiled and replied, "I'll be right there." She straightened her back and walked with composed steps toward the patient's room. It was just after 3 p.m. when Ellie's smartphone rang again. She was in the ward measuring a patient's blood pressure, but she answered despite not recognizing the number. "Hello, is this Elizabeth Morrison?" The voice on the other end was tense. "Yes, that's me. This is Nurse Smith from Central Middle School. I'm calling about Noah." Ellie felt her heart stop for a moment. "Noah? Did something happen?" "He was in an accident after school. Noah has been taken to St. Mary's General Hospital emergency room. Could you come right away?" The blood drained from Ellie's face. Accident. What kind? He was hit by a car while crossing at a crosswalk. The hospital will give you more details. Ellie felt as if the ground beneath her was shaking. Quickly gathering herself, she replied. I understand. I'll go right away. After hanging up, she hurriedly explained the situation to her supervisor and received permission to leave early. With her colleagues' concerned looks following her, she ran to the parking lot. As she drove to St. Mary's General Hospital on the other side of town, not the hospital where she worked, her mind went blank. Please be okay. She whispered, praying at every red light. Noah was her everything. Her son who had remained strong for her sake. The fear that his life might be in danger made Ellie's entire body tremble. Stopping her car at the emergency entrance of St. Mary's Hospital, Ellie rushed to the reception desk. I need to know about Noah. He's my son, brought in from a traffic accident. The receptionist guided her to the emergency treatment area. On the way, a young doctor in a white coat approached her. You must be Noah's mother. I'm Dr. Carter. My son. How is he? Dr. Carter began explaining calmly but urgently. Noah was hit by a car from the right side, resulting in a complex fracture of his right arm and internal bleeding. The CT scan also shows liver damage. We're currently stopping the bleeding, but emergency surgery is needed. As a nurse, Ellie understood all too well what those words meant. Internal bleeding and liver damage were life-threatening. It was a race against time. Surgery, right now? Yes. Could you sign the consent forms? Ellie mechanically signed the documents presented to her. While her mind understood that, this is reality, her heart seemed to refuse to accept it. Let me see my son. After a moment's hesitation, Dr. Carter led her to the treatment room. Noah on the bed looked nothing like his usual energetic self. His face was pale, swollen on the right side, with multiple 4-line monitor wires connected to his small body. When Ellie took her son's hand, Noah slightly opened his eyes. Mom, it hurts. At his weak voice, Ellie struggled to hold back tears. It's okay, Noah. Mom's here now. Everything will be fine. Noah nodded faintly and closed his eyes again. A nurse standing nearby explained, he's drowsy because of the anesthesia we've given him. Ms. Morrison, I need to speak with you, another woman approached her. She appeared to be a hospital administrative staff member. We need to go over insurance information and complete some procedures before surgery. Ellie reluctantly left Noah's side and followed the woman to the administrative office. While providing insurance information and filling out necessary forms, the administrative staff member hesitantly said, Ms. Morrison, your insurance will require a partial out-of-pocket payment for the surgery. The emergency surgery and hospitalization costs combined will result in approximately $15,000 in out-of-pocket expenses. Ellie caught her breath. She didn't have that kind of money anywhere. Can I make payments in installments? Of course, we have payment plans, but we need an initial payment of at least $3,000 before the surgery. Ellie held her head in her hands. She had only about $1,000 in her bank account after setting aside rent and living expenses. Her credit card was already near its limit. We can't schedule the surgery until payment is confirmed, the staff member added apologetically. But my son needs surgery right now. Ellie exclaimed. I understand your situation. However, hospital policy. Ellie left the administrative office feeling desperate. She sat down on a chair in the hallway, trying to figure out what to do. Even if she asked friends, no one could lend her that much money. Her ex-husband Greg had been unreachable for months. At that moment, one option came to mind. Her mother Deborah could certainly arrange the money immediately. However, Ellie had never borrowed money from her mother before. She had her pride, and, more than anything, she feared being refused. But now was different. Noah's life was at stake. With trembling hands, Ellie took out her smartphone and called her mother. "Hello? Ellie. This is a surprise, getting a call from you." Her mother's voice was as composed as ever, with a hint of sarcasm. Ellie stumbled over her words. "Please. Noah's been in an accident. I don't have enough for the surgery costs. Could you lend me some money?" On the other end of the line, Deborah's breathing seemed to pause for a moment. "Accident? What happened? Is he all right?" "He was hit by a car. There's internal bleeding, and he needs emergency surgery. But the insurance deductible, they won't start the surgery unless I can pay $3,000 up front." Ellie desperately forced the words out. "Please, Mom. I'll pay you back for sure." On the other end of the phone, Deborah let out a deep sigh. "I'm sorry, but I can't provide the money right now." Ellie couldn't believe her ears. "What do you mean?" "Noah's life is at stake. I just promised to fund Emma's study abroad in England. You understand, don't you? We can't miss this opportunity." Ellie felt as if the world around her had darkened with shock. To weigh Emma's study abroad against Noah's life. Noah's life is at stake. Can't Emma's study abroad wait a little longer? Her voice trembled. It wasn't anger, but pure fear and desperation. "Ellie, you've always managed on your own. You'll figure it out this time too." Deborah's voice was cold, decisive. "Why?" Ellie could no longer hold back, and tears streamed down her cheeks. "Mom, please. Noah is your grandson. Of course I know that. But a promise is a promise. I promised Rachel and Emma. So it's okay if Noah dies. Don't be so dramatic, you'll manage somehow." "Fine." Ellie hung up, feeling drained of all strength. She collapsed into a chair in the hallway as tears flowed freely. "Ms. Morrison." Dr. Carter approached her. "We're ready for surgery. About the payment. Please give me a little more time. I'll figure something out." She staggered back to Noah's room and quietly took his hand as he received his four. "It's going to be all right. Mom will figure something out," she said, fighting back tears. Noah weakly opened his eyes and smiled faintly. "I'm okay. It doesn't hurt much." Seeing her son trying to be brave broke Ellie's heart. How could she come up with the money? Various options raced through her mind. Ask colleagues for help. Rush to a bank for an emergency loan. Holding Noah's hand tightly, Ellie made up her mind. She would find a solution no matter what. That was her role as a mother. It was her duty to protect her son's life. "We're ready to proceed," the nurses entered the room. Ellie momentarily panicked. The money issue wasn't resolved yet. But the payment. One of the nurses smiled at her. "Everything's fine. The surgical team is standing by. Let's move Noah to the operating room." Though confused, Ellie watched as Noah was taken to the operating room. What happened with the payment issue? While she was still bewildered, a hospital administrator appeared before her. "Ms. Morrison, regarding the payment." Before hearing those words, Ellie spotted a familiar figure at the far end of the hallway. It was her mother Deborah, running with a distressed expression. Deborah stopped in front of Ellie, out of breath. Her eyes were red, her makeup ruined. Even her usually perfectly styled hair was disheveled, she had clearly rushed over in a hurry. "Mom." Ellie's voice caught with surprise and confusion. She couldn't understand why her mother was here after coldly rejecting her just moments ago. "Noah. The surgery?" Deborah asked anxiously. "He just went into the operating room," Ellie replied coldly. "But the payment issue isn't." The hospital administrator interrupted her. Ms. Morrison, the initial payment for the surgery has already been completed. Please don't worry. Ellie tilted her head in confusion. What? Who? I paid it, came a voice from behind her. Turning around, Ellie saw Rachel standing there. She too appeared to have rushed over, her cheeks flushed. Rachel? Why? I'll explain, Rachel took Ellie's hand. But first, let's find somewhere we can sit down. The three women moved to the hospital cafeteria. For a while, there was silence as they sat with their coffees. What's going on? Ellie finally spoke. Mom, when I called you earlier, you clearly refused me. Deborah couldn't look up. Rachel began explaining instead. I called Mom. Ellie, I was worried when I heard you were at the hospital. How did you know? A colleague from the hospital contacted me. It's a small town, rumors spread quickly, Rachel smiled bitterly. So I asked Mom, did Ellie call you? And she said, I refused her. Rachel gave Deborah an accusing look. When she told me what happened, I immediately went to the bank. Then I called Mom and told her to come with me. Ellie was confused. She couldn't understand why Rachel would go to such lengths. The two had never been close as children. If anything, their mother's favoritism had created distance between them. But why? You provided the money. Rachel took a deep breath. Ellie, I heard about Noah. It must be terrible, Rachel said gently. I heard Mom turned you down because of Emma's study abroad costs, but that's a lie. Ellie frowned. What do you mean? About Emma's study abroad? We haven't borrowed any money from Mom for that. Michael's company is covering all the costs. We informed Mom last week. Ellie was shocked. She turned to look at Deborah, who shamefully turned away. What does this mean? Ellie's voice trembled. Why did you lie? Deborah let out a long sigh. Just as she was about to answer, the cafeteria door opened, and Dr. Carter entered. Ms. Morrison, may I have a word? All three women stood up at once. How's Noah? Ellie clutched her chest. The surgery has just begun. It will take about 2 more hours, but there are some things I'd like to explain to you in advance. Dr. Carter explained the details of the surgery and the expected recovery process. The liver damage was serious but not fatal, the bone fracture was complex and might require multiple surgeries. Recovery would take time, but Noah's youth was on his side. After the doctor left, a heavy silence again enveloped the three women. Mom, Ellie said quietly but firmly. Explain. Why did you use Emma's study abroad as an excuse? Deborah sank deep into her chair, covering her face with both hands. I was too ashamed to tell the truth. Her voice was small and trembling. Ellie and Rachel exchanged surprised glances. It was unheard of for Deborah to show any weakness. What were you ashamed of? Rachel asked gently. After a long silence, Deborah finally raised her face. There were tears in her eyes. I don't have any money. What? Ellie and Rachel exclaimed simultaneously. I failed in a real estate investment. I'm deeply in debt, Deborah's voice caught. I couldn't tell anyone. Especially not you two. Ellie couldn't believe it. Her mother Deborah had always seemed financially stable, a successful businesswoman. She was thought to be one of the wealthiest people in town. How much? $3.5 million, Deborah answered in an almost inaudible voice. Rachel nearly fell off her chair from shock. How? Since when? Since last year. I invested everything in the Southside large-scale development project. But the construction company went bankrupt. Deborah explained the details. She had wagered all her assets, including her long-term savings and bank loans. The project's failure had pushed her to the brink of financial ruin. But you always made us think. Rachel's words trailed off. I was keeping up appearances, Deborah answered sadly. I wanted to remain the successful person everyone in town knew, and a respectable mother in front of my daughters. Ellie was flooded with complex emotions. Anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief knowing that her mother hadn't been dismissive of them but had hidden the truth out of shame and pride. So that's why you couldn't lend money to Ellie, Rachel concluded. Deborah nodded. I wanted to lend it, but I couldn't. So I lied. I thought Emma's study abroad would be an acceptable reason for refusal. When Noah's life was at stake. Ellie's voice shook. There must have been another way. I know, Deborah wiped away tears. What a terrible mother I am, what a terrible grandmother. Seeing Deborah break down in tears shocked Ellie. She had never seen her mother display such raw emotion. At that moment, Rachel's smartphone rang. It was Michael. After a brief conversation, she turned back to them. Michael is on his way here. I told him everything, Rachel explained. He says he'll consult with a lawyer about Mom's debt. There might be a solution. Ellie was still recovering from the shock. However, she was beginning to realize that in this crisis, her family was coming together. But how did you arrange the surgery payment? Ellie asked Rachel. Credit card, Rachel shrugged. I used Michael's business card. It has a high limit, so it was no problem. Thank you, really, Ellie squeezed her sister's hand. It's only natural, Rachel looked at Ellie seriously. Noah is my nephew. He's family. At these words, tears welled up in Ellie's eyes. The distance she had felt between herself and her sister for years seemed to shrink in this moment of crisis. Ms. Morrison. The three women turned to see a nurse standing there. The surgery is still in progress, but it's going well. It should take about 2 more hours. Ellie sighed with relief. Thank you. After the nurse left, Ellie looked at her mother and sister. The three women sat awkwardly under the weight of years of misunderstandings and secrets. But the atmosphere was gradually changing. What now? Ellie asked quietly. Deborah looked up, showing determination for the first time. I'm going to live honestly. No more lies. I'll handle the debt myself. And. She hesitated slightly before continuing, I'll be more honest with you both, especially with you, Ellie. Ellie nodded slowly. She couldn't easily forgive her mother, but at least now that the truth was out, she felt they could take a new step forward. Let's wait together until the surgery is finished, Rachel suggested. And so the three women began to talk quietly. About past memories, misunderstandings, and hopes for the future. Their family bonds had been damaged, but at this moment, the threads of repair were beginning to be woven. Several hours later, Dr. Carter appeared with a tired expression. The surgery was successful. At these words, all three shed tears of relief. Noah was still in a critical condition, but the worst was over. Ellie quietly held her son's hand as he was transferred to the recovery room. It would still be some time before he woke from the anesthesia. Deborah and Rachel waited in the hallway. Noah. Ellie whispered to her sleeping son. Everyone is worried about you. Grandma and Aunt Rachel, everyone is waiting for you to wake up soon. Dawn was beginning to break outside the window. With the start of a new day, Ellie sensed that through this crisis, her family was beginning to walk a new path. 2 days after the surgery, doctors announced that his condition had stabilized. Ellie was dozing in the chair by her son's bedside. She had been by his side for 2 days, barely resting. Mom. At the faint voice, Ellie jumped awake. Noah was slowly opening his eyes, looking at her. Noah. Ellie clutched her son's hand. How are you? Does it hurt? Noah smiled weakly. I'm okay. Just thirsty. Ellie quickly prepared water and helped Noah drink through a straw. After drinking, Noah looked around. Where am I? You're in the hospital, Ellie explained gently. Remember? You were in an accident. Noah furrowed his brow, closing his eyes as if trying to recall. I got off the bus and was crossing at the crosswalk. That's right. You were hit by a car. But don't worry, the surgery was successful. Noah looked down at his body. His right arm was in a fixation device, and large bandages were wrapped around his abdomen. And 4 needle was inserted in his left arm. Was I about to die? The straightforward question clutched at Ellie's heart. It was a bit dangerous. But you're a strong boy. The doctors were amazed. Noah smiled proudly for a moment, but then his expression turned serious. Mom, have you been awake this whole time? Looking at the dark circles under Ellie's eyes, Noah asked with concern. Ellie nodded as she stroked his hair. It's okay. Just having you safe is. The door quietly opened, and Deborah and Rachel appeared. Both looked tired, but their faces brightened when they saw Noah was awake. Deborah rushed over and took her grandson's hand. I'm so glad you're awake. Grandma. Noah looked surprised. It was unusual for his grandmother to visit the hospital. Yes, I've been here the whole time, Deborah replied tearfully. I was so worried about you. Rachel also approached and gently kissed Noah's forehead. I'm glad you're feeling better, Noah. Emma is worried too. She'll come as soon as school is out. Though confused, Noah smiled happily. Grandma and Aunt Rachel caring so much about him. Something special must have happened. Thank you, everyone, Noah said weakly. Dr. Carter came for rounds, and after thoroughly checking Noah's condition, explained to Ellie and the others. He's recovering faster than expected. That's the privilege of youth, the doctor smiled. However, it will take several months for complete recovery. The liver especially needs rest. Work? Ellie asked worriedly. Someone will need to stay with Noah for at least the first month. Ellie's expression clouded. Her financial situation didn't allow her to take a month off work. Don't worry, Deborah said quietly. I'll take care of him. Ellie looked at her mother in surprise. Deborah returned her gaze with a serious expression. Please. Let me do this. Give me the chance to care for my grandson. After the doctor left, the 4 continued their quiet conversation. Noah tired easily and occasionally dozed off, but seemed comforted by having his family around. In the evening, Ellie sat with her mother in the hospital cafeteria, drinking coffee. Rachel had gone home to prepare to return with Emma. Are you really sure about this? Taking care of Noah? Ellie asked quietly. Deborah took a deep breath. Ellie, I want to learn from my mistakes. From now on, I won't lie, and I'll trust you all. She reached out and took Ellie's hand. I always thought I had to be a perfect mother. But in the end, I made the worst choice. Deborah apologized tearfully. I'm truly sorry. Ellie was filled with complex emotions. There was anger, but also a sense of her heart stirring as she encountered her mother's weakness and sincerity. Mom, why did you have to keep up appearances? We're family. Deborah was silent for a long time. Eventually, she began speaking in a quiet voice. After your father left, I didn't want to be a failure. I couldn't bear everyone in town saying, poor thing, about me. Ellie recalled the memory from when she was 13. Her father leaving, and her mother crying all night. So I staked everything on becoming successful. Raising 2 daughters properly was my pride, Deborah continued. But somewhere along the way, I went wrong. Especially with you, Ellie. What do you mean? Seeing you work so hard, I should have supported you more. Instead, I pushed you away saying, pull yourself together. I said it was to make you stronger. Deborah turned her face away. But maybe the truth is, I didn't want you to see my weakness. Ellie felt her chest tighten hearing her mother's true feelings. Gradually, she began to understand the reason behind her mother's harshness over the years. And spoiling Rachel was because she seemed weaker than you, Deborah admitted shamefully. You're strong like me, but Rachel is more sensitive, she takes after your father. Ellie was stunned. After Dad? Yes. So I felt I needed to protect her specially, Deborah smiled bitterly. But in doing so, I created a wall between us. The two talked for a long time about their days of child rearing, family memories, and mutual misunderstandings. Sometimes crying, sometimes laughing. Ellie felt as if she was seeing her mother as a person for the first time. Not as someone perfect, but as a woman with her own weaknesses. About Noah, Deborah changed the subject. Don't worry about the financial concerns during his recovery period. I'll take care of it. But Mom, your debt. Yes, I have debt. But I haven't lost everything yet, Deborah said with determination. I've decided to sell my house. I'll move to a smaller place and pay off the debt. Ellie was surprised. You're selling your house. But that house is just a building, Deborah shrugged. It was a tool for keeping up appearances. I don't need it anymore. That night, Rachel and Emma returned to the hospital. Emma sat beside Noah's bed, cheerfully telling him about what was happening at school. Though the cousins hadn't had much opportunity to meet before, a new bond seemed to be forming between them. In the corner of the room, Ellie, Deborah, Rachel, and Rachel's husband Michael gathered to discuss the future. About the debt, Michael quietly began. There are several options. You might want to consider filing for bankruptcy. Bankruptcy? Deborah repeated in a trembling voice. It's not dishonorable, Deborah, Michael said gently. Many business people go through it. What matters is how you recover afterward. Ellie and Rachel decided to cooperate in sorting out Deborah's financial situation. The three discussed and made plans to sell Deborah's house and move her to a smaller residence to repay the debt. You too. Deborah was too emotional to continue. You've grown into such wonderful daughters. And I didn't even teach you properly. I wouldn't say that, Rachel smiled. We learned a lot from you, Mom. That's right, Ellie agreed. Both the good and the not so good were all valuable lessons. Deborah looked at her daughters and felt genuine pride for the first time. Not the facade of pride, but a real emotion. I'm going to live differently from now on, Deborah promised. No more lies. I'll set aside my pride. And she looked at Ellie, I'll cherish you and Noah more. Ellie nodded silently. It would take time to forgive everything, but she was ready to accept the opportunity for a new beginning. By the way, Michael said, about the hospital payment, I've tried negotiating with the insurance company. There's a possibility of reducing the out-of-pocket amount. Really? Ellie asked hopefully. Yes. And we can also set up an installment payment plan, Michael answered confidently. Don't worry, Ellie. We'll get through this together. In the hospital bed, Noah and Emma were quietly laughing together. Seeing this scene, Ellie thought to herself that this crisis might have become an opportunity to restore the family bonds that had almost been lost. As Noah was falling asleep, Ellie kissed his forehead. Mom. Noah sleepily opened his eyes. Grandma and everyone seem different now. Ellie smiled. That's right. They've changed for the better. Noah nodded. It's like everyone's a real family now. At those words, Ellie felt her chest grow warm. That's right, Noah. We're trying to become a real family. Noah closed his eyes contentedly. As Ellie watched her son's sleeping face, she contemplated the days ahead. It wouldn't be easy, but she was no longer alone. She had the support of her family. A new family bond built on truth. Stars shone in the night sky, visible from the hospital window, like new lights of hope. 6 months later, in a small apartment lit by the morning sun, Deborah was preparing for work. The space was incomparably smaller than her former mansion, but she felt a strange sense of peace here. "Good morning, Deborah. Please check today's schedule," called her colleague Jeanette, standing at the entrance. Having closed her real estate business, Deborah now worked as an activity coordinator at the local Sunrise Senior Center. "Thank you," Deborah smiled, glancing at the family photo on the kitchen counter. It was taken at Noah's discharge celebration, showing Ellie, Noah, Rachel, Michael, Emma, and herself. Everyone wore genuine smiles. The debt was being repaid little by little, and with Michael's help, they had established a path forward. "Life is ironic," Deborah murmured. "Only after losing everything did I finally see what truly matters." Ellie walked down the hospital corridor, reviewing notes for her head nurse exam. Having started attending night school, she felt fulfilled as she pursued career advancement. "Ellie. How's Noah doing?" Senior nurse Sarah called out. "He's fully back in school this week. He's really getting better." Ellie's expression showed obvious relief. "I heard your mother is doing great work at the senior center," Sarah mentioned. Ellie smiled. She said it was temporary at first, but now she's completely enthusiastic about it. "That accident was terrible, but it changed our family." Returning home, Ellie found Noah and Emma engrossed in a video game in the living room. The cousins had grown close over these past 6 months. "Emma, what happened with your England study abroad?" Noah asked. "I postponed it for a year," Emma answered. "Meanwhile, I've started volunteering at a nursing home. I got interested after seeing Grandma's work." Emma volunteering? "I can't imagine it," Noah showed a surprised expression. "How rude. People can change, you know," Emma laughed, throwing a pillow at him. "I know. Our family is the best proof of that, right?" That night, the entire family gathered for dinner. "Let's make a toast," Michael raised his glass. "To the health and happiness of our family." "Noah, how's school?" Deborah asked. She now actively participated in her grandson's school events. "My teacher wants to write an article about my accident. The theme is the value of life and family bonds." "Emma, how are your college applications?" Ellie asked. "I want to study psychology. After seeing the people working at Grandma's facility, I became interested in elderly care." Deborah looked moved. "Emma, that's because of your influence, Grandma," Emma smiled. After dinner, Deborah called Ellie into the kitchen. "My life's greatest failure has become my greatest blessing," Deborah said with emotion. "Because it taught me the true meaning of family." Ellie studied her mother. The perfectionist of old was gone, replaced by a more human expression. "Mom, it's wonderful to see how you've changed." "You've changed too," Deborah pointed out. "You've become more confident. Since Noah's accident, I've discovered my own strength. At the same time, I've learned the importance of asking for help." "We took the long way around, didn't we?" Deborah smiled wryly. "But we're here now," Ellie took her mother's hand. "That's what matters." As the evening grew late, Deborah and Ellie stood on the porch. "Mom, be honest. Do you regret it? Giving up that big house, your successful business, everything?" Deborah considered before answering. "Sometimes, I miss the old life. But in my current life, I feel much more genuine happiness." A life built on honesty and humility is far more valuable than one constructed of lies and pretense. If you can think that way, you really have changed, Mom. I'm still halfway there. But I'm moving in the right direction. From inside the house, Noah's voice called out, Mom, Grandma. Emma wants to take a photo. Everyone gathered in front of the camera, smiling for the picture. Those who had once been separated by lies and misunderstandings were now bound by truth and love. Deborah quietly reflected. Sometimes the darkest hours of life bring forth the brightest light. Through the tragedy of Noah's accident, she had learned the most valuable lessons: to be honest, to acknowledge weakness, and above all, to truly understand what it means to love family.